Chapter 301. This majestic chakra appeared and disappeared quickly. Roger didn't have time to use his own chakra, and the feeling of swelling disappeared like a balloon that was about to burst. At the same time, a powerful sealing force appeared on his abdomen. Pulling open his shirt, Rog saw the familiar seal pattern. The 8 trigram seal. The system not only sent the Yang Nine Tails, but also the 8 trigram seal. Looking at the 8 trigram seal on his abdomen, Rog hesitated for a few seconds, then controlled his consciousness to enter the seal. It was exactly the same as the sealed space in his memory, a huge metal door and the word seal in the middle of the door. Inside the door lay an orange fox. It was a fox with 9 tails. Up until now, everything seemed normal, but Rog keenly felt that something was wrong. There was nothing wrong with the 8 trigram seal's sealed space, and there was nothing wrong with the 9 tails chakra, but there was something wrong with the 9 tails. A tailed beast was a chakra materialized life form with a tail. The tail was a characteristic, the chakra materialized form was the body, and the life form was the essence. However, the 9 tails sealed in the door did not seem to be an intelligent life form. Instead of saying that the 9 tails was sealed inside, it was more accurate to say that the 9 tails chakra was sealed inside. From the outside, the thing sealed inside the door was no different from the 9 tails. It had sharp claws, sharp teeth, realistic fur, bright eyes, and a natural breath. However, the thing inside did not give Rog the feeling of an intelligent life form. No, not only was it an intelligent life form, it was not even considered a conscious life form. There was no problem with the 9 tails chakra, but what about the 9 tails consciousness? Without consciousness, how could I understand each other, and where could I establish a bond? Was the door to the perfect Jinchuriki completely closed before it was even opened? There must be something wrong. This 9 tails is very different from what I imagined. Without any hesitation, Rog immediately exited the space of consciousness, quickly opened the character panel in the system, and found the Jinchuriki column. Jinchuriki, QB Jinchuriki, resonance level, 3. After reading the system's explanation of the progress of Jinchuriki and resonance, Rog finally figured out what was going on. The system can't exchange any characters in Naruto's world. Although creatures and tailed beasts are not within this restriction, the creatures and tailed beasts won't have wisdom. This meant that the redeemed tailed beasts would not have their original consciousness. Of course, the system considerately took into account the various sequelae caused by the tailed beast's lack of consciousness, such as the perfect Jinchuriki, borrowing the power of the tailed beast, and so on. Therefore, the system changed the so-called understanding in fetters to resonance. The higher the resonance, the more power he could draw from the tailed beasts. When the degree of resonance reaches the number of the tail of a tailed beast, it can become a perfect Jinchuriki. In other words, when Rog's resonance with QB reaches 9, he can become a perfect Jinchuriki. Although the system provided a reasonable solution, Rog was still somewhat dissatisfied. He felt that he had encountered a profiteer. Shouldn't this kind of thing be reminded in advance? After a helpless sigh, Rog's consciousness entered the sealed space again and came to the front of QB. He originally planned to have a conversation with QB, but now it seems that this is completely unnecessary. Because only biological instincts are retained, the QB in front of him, to a certain extent, can be equivalent to a real fox. When Rog looked at QB in the door, QB also sat up and looked at Rog curiously. After looking at QB for more than 10 seconds, Rog sighed again. This feeling of looking at a fool is really stupid. No, I'm a fool. I even fantasized about a real QB. After leaving the sealed space, Rog opened the character panel again and glanced at his current chakra amount. Chakra amount: 6 tails, 3 main body, 3 bijou. Now Rog finally determined one thing, that is, the unit used by the system to measure chakra amount is not the tail of other bijou, but half of the QB's tail. He previously thought that his Sanbai chakra amount is equivalent to the Sanbai chakra amount. Yang QB plus Yin QB is the complete QB. According to the system's algorithm, the complete QB's chakra amount is 18 tails. His current chakra amount is 6 tails, which is equivalent to 1/3 of the complete QB. It feels like the amount of chakra is even less. Forget it, don't think about it. The more I think about it, the more sad I feel. In the next half a month, Rog didn't go anywhere and stayed in Konoha to concentrate on digesting the QB he had just obtained. Now he feels that he is not the QB's Jinchuriki at all, but a QB chakra power bank. Although it's very different from what he imagined, he guessed one thing right. The increase in chakra amount has indeed led to the further development of the sage body. Under the stimulation of the QB's Sanbai chakra amount, his sage body has been further improved. The improvement of the sage body has led to the growth of his own chakra amount. The growth of his own chakra amount has increased the resonance of the bijou and the chakra amount of bijou. The QB chakra, the sage body, and his own chakra, these three have formed a good positive cycle, allowing him to grow 2 Bijou chakra and 1 Bijou chakra in just half a month. Chakra amount: 9 tails, 5 main body for Bijou. When he finished this boring chakra amount growth training, he felt a little different. In Blackie's words, the current him looked very strong. After half a month of life on Earth, Black has completely integrated into Konoha. He even went to Konoha's hidden village on Tatooine and worked as a construction worker for a few days. Dr. Connors is studying the symbiote and found several suitable personnel in the Umbu department to complete the first batch of symbiote soldiers. Punisher and Abomination are training newcomers, and Red Tank and Moonlight Stone are performing tasks. Daisy, Walter, and Pietro formed a team of superheroes, helping Konoha gain reputation. Eddie and Venom went back to San Francisco, but before leaving, Eddie registered his information in Konoha and became an expatriate of Konoha. Hinata manages the big and small affairs of Konoha's headquarters and supervises the establishment of Konoha's hidden village. Except for Black and Rog, everyone has their own things to do except for the two of them. Black, do you have any goals in life? Sitting on the top of Konoha's headquarters building, Rog looked at the sunset in the distance and asked Black without looking back. Chapter 302. Life Goal? Shouldn't you be the one to decide for me? Although I maintain a human form all day long, I am just a weapon. Weapons don't need to consider life goals. Xiaohei turned his head and glanced at Rog, answering in a calm tone. Since returning to Earth, Xiaohei has been in a state of free movement, so until now he still maintains a human form or the form of a miniature version of Venom. Except for Rog, Hinata, and others, no one has seen Xiaohei's Real Northern Cold Blade form. Therefore, no one knows that Xiaohei is actually a weapon, a new weapon created by Rog. I feel that I may have lost my way on the road of life recently. I have a feeling that I can't lift my spirits no matter what I do. It seems that I can do anything and I can't do anything. I used to think about becoming stronger, but after I really became stronger, I didn't know what the use of having this power was. I have no interest in maintaining world peace. Protecting the people around me, they are safe and they don't need my protection. I can't even find something that can make me excited now. Looking at the slowly setting sun in the distance, Rog said weakly, a look of confusion appeared on his face. According to the knowledge I have recently learned, your current state should be called the salted fish state. I don't know how you can lift your spirits, but if it were me, I might choose to find someone to fight. There is nothing that can't be solved by fighting. If there is, then fight again. Although this method is simple and crude, it is very effective. As far as I know, those symbiotic demons who are bored and have no direction in life solve their psychological problems in this way. Although Xiaohei has just been born, his mind is far beyond his age. This is why Rog asked him to come to the top of the building to watch the sunset. Fight? There are indeed a few people on Earth that I can't afford to provoke, but they won't come to me for trouble, and I don't want to trouble them. As for the others, they are too weak and there is no excitement in fighting. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Xiaohei raised his right hand with sharp claws and slapped him on the back of his head. That's enough. You're actually being pretentious. Do you see the sun over there? Do you know what it means when the sun sets? Ignoring Rog's astonishment, Blackie pointed to the sun in the distance and said, "It means that night is coming and today is coming to an end." Rog didn't know what Blackie wanted to do, but he still chose to answer. After hearing Rog's answer, Xiaohei looked into the distance and said seriously, "I don't know why you've suddenly become confused. I only know that every time the sun sets, it will rise again and start a new day. You're the most powerful being among all the creatures I've met so far. You have a power that many people yearn for. Perhaps to you this power seems to be useless. However, there are many people who would rather give up their lives for 100th or 1,000th of your power. You're a typical example of someone who doesn't know how lucky they are. You're just like those second-generation rich kids who don't want to improve themselves. All day long they think this is boring and that is meaningless. Isn't it just that you don't have the energy to do anything? Isn't it just that you don't have a direction in life? Since you know you don't have one, then go and find one. Just like you said, there are some existences on Earth who are stronger than you. Then you can make yourself stronger than them. If you can't find an opponent on Earth, then go to the universe to find one. If you can't find one in the universe, then go to other worlds to find one. If you don't want to walk the path of becoming stronger, then go and experience life. Experience a life that you've never experienced before and see how others spend their lives. If you don't even want to experience life, if you don't want to do anything, then you can talk to me. I can help you solve this problem completely." The more Blackie spoke, the more excited he became. At this point, he even turned his right hand into the shape of the northern cold saber and directly pressed it against Rog's throat. Blackie, although I'm just a weapon, I'm also a weapon with dignity and pursuit. My master can be weak, can have flaws and can have many shortcomings. But he can't not strive for improvement, can't abandon himself and can't blame others. I'm very disappointed in your current state, very disappointed. Blackie was completely agitated. After he finished speaking, he grabbed Rog's collar and lifted him up. If you make such a pretentious move again, I'll be the first to chop you up. This was the first time Rog experienced the feeling of being threatened by someone, especially when the person threatening him was his own weapon. To be despised by his own weapon, this was really a rare experience. Ha ha ha. Rog, who was lifted up by Blackie, suddenly laughed. The more he laughed, the louder and crazier he laughed. He was laughing like a clown. What's wrong with this guy? Did he suddenly lose his mind? Recalling Rog's bored and confused expression just now, Blackie had some bad thoughts. Looking at Rog, who was laughing so hard that tears were about to come out of his eyes, Blackie couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He slowly put down Rog. Rog, who was put down, didn't show any signs of recovering. Instead, he laughed more and more agitatedly. He hugged his head tightly with both hands and his whole body couldn't help but twitch. Could it be that he had really gone crazy? How can someone with such great strength be so mentally weak? It's over, it's completely over. I shouldn't have provoked him. I was just born not long ago. I don't want to change masters yet. Speaking of which, that earthling woman called Walter is not bad. She has great strength hidden in her. It should be good to have her as my master. But she doesn't look like she knows how to use a sword, and she doesn't seem to be good at close combat either. Should I look for that woman called Daisy? She's not bad either. She seems to be good at close combat. Just as Blackie's mind was filled with random thoughts, and he even started to evaluate Walter and Daisy to see who was more suitable to be his new master, Rog's crazy laughter became softer and softer. Is he going to return to normal? Just as Blackie's gaze returned to Rog, a right hand wrapped in red chakra appeared in front of him at lightning speed, and grabbed his neck tightly. I'm not dead yet and you're already thinking about changing masters? Aren't you being a little too disrespectful to me? At this moment, Rog was covered in red chakra, which was as red as blood. There were also 4 fox-like chakra tails behind him. Chapter 303. Rog's tone was very calm, but Xiaohei felt an inexplicable pressure. He was really angry. Although Xiaohei didn't have much life experience, he could still feel if a person was really angry. Moreover, Rog's right hand was still tightly gripping his neck. Rog's right hand didn't use much strength, but the red chakra on his right hand was like a seal, sealing Xiaohei's transformation ability. I was just casually thinking about it. No, it wasn't just thinking about it, it was just a random thought. Yes, it was just a random thought. My mind was just uncontrollably letting my imagination run wild. Xiaohei explained in a hurry. He hadn't been following Rog for long, but he knew one thing very clearly. Once Rog got angry, the consequences would be very serious. At this time, although Rog looked normal, the feeling he gave off was not normal at all. Not to mention the inexplicable appearance of the red chakra coat on his body, just the 4 tails behind him waving at will has already made Xiaohei feel great pressure. It wasn't that Xiaohei hadn't felt Rog's chakra before, but the red chakra that appeared now gave off a completely different aura from before. If the light blue chakra that Rog showed before gave off the feeling of a vast and calm sea, then the red chakra now gave off the aura of a terrifying volcano that was on the verge of eruption. Xiaohei didn't know what happened to Rog. He couldn't even tell if Rog had regained his sanity or gone completely crazy. The only thing he could be sure of now was that the current Rog was very dangerous, extremely dangerous, like a ferocious beast that chose people to devour. Looking at Xiaohei, who was at a loss and scared, Rog released his right hand and removed the 9-tailed chakra on his body. Although he looked very abnormal just now, the truth was that he had been clear-headed from the beginning to the end. The crazy laughter just now was also the same. After being despised and threatened by his own weapon, he realized how stupid he had been just now. All he did was possess half a 9-tailed beast and increase the amount of chakra to 9-tailed beast. Yet, he actually had the idiotic thought that life was very confusing. What Xiaohei said was right. Since he knew that he didn't have a target, he had to find one. There were still big shots on Earth that he couldn't deal with, and there were also powerful existences in the universe that he couldn't deal with. With his current strength, he wasn't even worth mentioning in front of the real big shots. Compared to those who were inferior to him, He indeed could not find the meaning of continuing to strengthen himself. He felt lost. He felt that he could not find the meaning of continuing to become stronger. That was because he had mistaken the target of comparison. Pointing a knife at me and lifting me up, I don't want it to happen again. After saying that, Roger ignored Xiao, who had a confused look on his face, and left the top floor of the building. Although Blackie's mind was very mature, he had to admit that he couldn't keep up with Rog's rhythm. What was wrong with the people on Earth these days? They could go crazy or sober as they wished. Humans were really troublesome. Cursing in his heart, Xiao silently followed Rog, wanting to see what he was going to do when he suddenly went crazy and sober. After leaving the top of the building, Rog went straight back to his office and opened a piece of information that the intelligence department had already collected. A burning motorcycle and a skull, and a messenger of hell who punishes evil. In the past few months, a new urban legend had appeared in Houston. The legend of Ghost Rider. Every night, a messenger of hell on a motorcycle would appear and punish the criminals who deserved it. Before the Avengers and aliens appeared, few people would believe such a story that didn't seem very reliable. But now, the people of Houston didn't doubt the authenticity of this story at all. There were superheroes and aliens, so it wasn't impossible for a messenger of hell to appear. More importantly, the people of Houston had really seen this legendary Ghost Rider after night fell. Actually, it was hard not to see it. After all, the combination of a burning skull and a motorcycle was too eye-catching. What's more, this Ghost Rider was a classic road wrecker. As long as this skeleton-like motorcycle drove past, it would leave an extremely obvious burn mark on the ground. Because of this extremely obvious characteristic, there were even fanatics in Houston who specialized in tracking Ghost Rider. Who is this guy? Xiao looked at Ghost Rider on the screen and asked curiously. Ghost Rider, the messenger of Mephisto, the Lord of Hell, and a knight who specializes in harvesting the souls of criminals. Rog gave a simple explanation. Information on Ghost Rider had been collected long ago, and as Ghost Rider continued to move out, there were more and more videos and pictures. At that moment, Rog was browsing through the latest sighting report of Ghost Rider. Are you going to kill him? Although Xiao didn't know much about Ghost Rider and Mephisto, he still understood the term Lord of Hell. No, I'm just going to kill him. I want him to take me to hell. Looking at Rog's serious expression, Xiao suddenly felt that Rog might not have recovered yet, and was still crazy. Xiao had never been to hell before, and he had only recently learned the word, hell. But there was one thing he knew very well, and that was that when a human said that they wanted to go to hell, they were basically not normal. Whether it was hell or heaven, they were absolutely forbidden zones for normal humans. People who said such things were no different from people who said that they wanted to become God. They were all crazy. Hinata, hack into Houston's public surveillance system. I want to know where Ghost Rider will appear tonight. With that, Rog picked up the sunglasses on the table and grabbed Xiao. The brilliant light of quantum teleportation instantly lit up. I don't want to go to hell. Before Xiao could say anything, the light of quantum teleportation lit up on the roof of a building in Houston. In an instant, Rog and Xiao arrived in Houston from Konoha's headquarters in Washington. Well, symbiotic demons have a weakness of fire, so do you mind sending me back? Xiao stood behind Rog and asked cautiously. A stronger lord can overcome the weakness of fire. Even Venom can do it, so there's no way you can't do it. It's just some hellfire, it won't hurt you. As for Blackie's suggestion, Rog rejected it without hesitation. Other symbiotic demons might be afraid of fire, but Xiao was definitely not. If he had such an obvious weakness, he would have died on the Golden Jack. Chapter 304. Little Black was Rog's main weapon for a long time to come. If Little Black's quality wasn't good enough, Rog would have taken him back to the furnace long ago. I'm starting to regret enlightening you. Now that I think about it, there's nothing wrong with being a salted fish. Little Black said helplessly. As a weapon forged from the Black Death Sword, he naturally wasn't afraid of fire, but that didn't mean he could ignore any fire damage. Hellfire, this kind of fire didn't sound simple. Time passed little by little, and when it was 10 o'clock at night, a map of Houston appeared on Rog's sunglasses. On the map there was a red dot moving quickly. Although Hinata didn't say anything, it was obvious that the moving red dot was the legendary Ghost Rider. Transform back into the form of the Northern Cold Blade. We're going to work. Little Black glanced at Rog and quickly transformed back into the original form of the Northern Cold Blade, hanging on Rog's belt. Rog hadn't made any scabbard for the Northern Cold Blade, and Little Black didn't like the feeling of being stuck in a scabbard. Using Little Black's own words to describe it, it was a kind of shameful play. Rog respected Little Black's request. Even without a scabbard, he didn't need to worry about the northern cold blade accidentally hurting him. Little Black was very self-aware of this. After determining the direction Ghost Rider was heading, Rog used quantum teleportation to leave the top of the building and arrive on the path Ghost Rider had to take. At this moment, Rog wasn't the only one chasing after Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider enthusiasts and the Houston police officers were also hunting this legendary figure. The thoughts of these enthusiasts were very simple. For them, Ghost Rider was their idol, and they were a group of fans chasing after their idol. As for the police in Houston, Ghost Rider was a huge problem. After the appearance of Ghost Rider, law and order in Houston had improved significantly. In particular, the number of crimes on the streets at night had dropped to an unprecedented low. The crime rate had dropped and public security had improved. Logically speaking, the Houston police should be very grateful to Ghost Rider. But the problem was that Ghost Rider's punishment was too brutal. As long as it was a criminal punished by Ghost Rider, they would all die without exception. Although the police in Houston didn't know what the trial's eye was, and didn't know what the hellfire was, they knew that they were in trouble when they saw the scorched eyes of the criminals. America was a country that nominally pursued democracy and freedom, which meant that this country had an almost paranoid pursuit of so-called human rights. Criminals also had human rights. Furthermore, Ghost Rider's act of killing criminals without trial was something that the police hated. Chasing after criminals and cracking down on crime was no problem, this was what most superheroes did. However, acting as a judge to judge criminals and depriving them of their lives was absolutely not allowed. Thus, in the eyes of the police, Ghost Rider wasn't a superhero, but a violent criminal who used his superpowers to wantonly kill criminals. Yes, in the eyes of the police, Ghost Rider was also a criminal, and a criminal with extraordinary powers at that. Thus, every night that Ghost Rider appeared, there would be this phenomenon of fanatical fans and the police working together to track down Ghost Rider. Rog knew about this phenomenon when he browsed through the information on Ghost Rider. But he didn't take it to heart at all, and he didn't even plan to use a transformation technique to change his appearance. Konoha was handling matters and unrelated people should disperse. Ever since Konoha displayed unprecedented dominance when hunting down Hydra, this concept had begun to take root in people's hearts. Anyone who knew a little about Konoha knew that all of Konoha's actions had an extremely high collateral damage index. This meant that if someone was affected by Konoha's actions because of curiosity or other reasons, Konoha didn't have to bear any responsibility. And until now, no one knew how high Konoha's collateral damage index was. In any case, Konoha had never received any official punishment or condemnation for collateral damage. Over time, no one was willing to use their lives to test the upper limit of this collateral damage index. After using quantum transmission to arrive at the main road that Ghost Rider had to pass through, Rog took off the sunglasses connected to the satellite and waited silently for Ghost Rider's arrival. Ghost Rider had been around for a long time, but Konoha's intelligence department had not yet investigated the true identity of Ghost Rider. They didn't know as much as Rog himself. Although there was only one Ghost Rider in Rog's memory, he wasn't sure if this Ghost Rider was the one in his memory until he saw the human face of this Ghost Rider. It didn't take long for Rog to see the motorcycle that was burning with hellfire and had an extremely obvious style, as well as the Ghost Rider in a black leather jacket on it. Sure enough, without skin and flesh, everyone's bones and heads looked the same. The galloping Ghost Rider also saw Rog in the middle of the road, but he showed no signs of slowing down and rushed straight at Rog. In the past few months, Ghost Rider had seen too many people trying to stop him. Little Black, this is your first battle. Don't embarrass yourself. As soon as he said that, the northern cold blade in Rog's hand vibrated slightly, answering his question. Feeling the vibration of the northern cold blade, Rog smiled and slowly walked toward Ghost Rider. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Rog walked toward Ghost Rider as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. In the distance, Ghost Rider drove the Hell motorcycle and rushed toward him like a meteor. 100 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. When the Ghost Rider burning with hellfire was only 20 meters away, Rog raised the northern cold blade in his hand and slashed diagonally from top to bottom. Boom. The next second, there was a terrifying explosion like that of an intercontinental missile. Orange-red hellfire soared into the sky, the ground cracked, and a transparent shockwave spread out in all directions. The hellfire motorcycle that was speeding like a meteor came to a stop, and the front wheel spun wildly like a small burning sun. In front of the hellfire motorcycle was Rog, who was wearing a light blue chakra coat. The northern cold blade in his right hand viciously slashed at the front of the Hellfire motorcycle. Visible cracks appeared on the devilish skull-like front of the motorcycle. Northern cold blade versus Hellfire motorcycle. Northern cold blade wins. Chapter 305. The wheels of the Hellfire motorcycle were still spinning madly, but Roger was like a mountain that stood still in the same spot. At this moment, it wasn't Rog who was blocking the Hellfire, but the northern cold blade in his hand. All he was doing was providing a fulcrum for the northern cold blade. Who are you? After realizing that the Hellfire motorcycle couldn't move forward no matter what, Ghost Rider finally spoke. Konoha Rog. Rog introduced himself briefly. As for whether or not Ghost Rider knew who he was, it wasn't within his consideration. Hearing Rog introduce himself, Ghost Rider, who had no skin or flesh, tilted his head in confusion as if trying to figure out who Rog was. While he was thinking, Ghost Rider stopped the Hellfire, got off the motorcycle which looked both good and practical and slowly walked over to Rog. The Hellfire stopped, and Rog put away the northern cold blade in his hand as he stared at Ghost Rider's eyes that were burning with Hellfire. Rog wasn't worried that Ghost Rider would use the Trial's Eye against him. On the contrary, he was looking forward to it. He was a little curious about which was stronger, the Manjikyu Sharingan or the Trial's Eye. When Rog and Ghost Rider looked at each other, Ghost Rider's fanatical fans and the Houston police finally caught up. But when they saw that the person standing in front of Ghost Rider was the fourth Hokage, Rog, they couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Konoha's collateral damage was already deeply rooted in people's hearts, and very few people were willing to risk their lives to test this point. Although they didn't dare step forward, this didn't affect the fanatical fans filming. Phones were taken out one after another, and the cameras were aimed at Rog and Ghost Rider in the distance. Some fanatical fans even took out professional filming equipment and started filming seriously like frontline reporters. Compared with these fanatical fans, the Houston police clearly didn't have as much filming equipment. However, the Houston police had more advanced police helicopters. Under normal circumstances, these police helicopters were only suitable for capturing criminals. But now, these police helicopters had become the most professional reporters at the scene, sending the footage back to the police station. After the fanatical fans and the Houston police appeared one after another, the professional reporters appeared one after another. Interview helicopters from various newspapers and news channels also arrived at the scene. As more and more spectators gathered, Rog and Ghost Rider, who were the stars of the show, didn't seem to notice anything as they continued to look at each other. Rog didn't attack and neither did Ghost Rider. Wearing a light blue chakra coat and orange-red Hellfire, Rog and Ghost Rider sized each other up as if they were prey. Just as all the onlookers were wondering when the two of them would start fighting, Ghost Rider made the first move. A bone fist wrapped in Hellfire flew straight at Rog's head. Although the speed of the bone fist was not fast, its strength was not small at all. In particular, the Hellfire wrapped around his fist gave off a shockingly high temperature. If Ghost Rider wasn't attacking Rog right now, but an ordinary person, it would have been a headshot without a doubt. But Rog wasn't an ordinary person and Ghost Rider's punch was too slow for him. After Ghost Rider punched, Rog raised his right hand and grabbed the hilt of the Northern Cold Saber. Then he drew and swung the saber as fast as lightning. Even the high-speed cameras didn't catch Rog drawing his saber. The only thing they captured was Ghost Rider's bone head flying high into the air. Not to mention the onlookers, even Ghost Rider himself didn't see how Rog drew his saber. It wasn't until his head flew up and the scene in his vision started to spin that Ghost Rider realized that his head had left his body. Hellfire gave Ghost Rider an immortal body, but it also deprived him of his normal senses. In Ghost Rider's form, he didn't have the sense of touch and taste that a normal human had, much less the so-called sense of pain. To some extent, this was a good thing, especially in battle. But at certain times, it would also bring some inconvenience, such as now. After sending Ghost Rider's head flying with one slash, Rog turned slightly to the side and dodged Ghost Rider's ferocious punch. Then he sent the headless body flying with a kick. Ghost Rider was indeed very strong and Hellfire was indeed very powerful. But Ghost Rider's combat skills were also undeniably bad. Not to mention that Ghost Rider was now facing Rog, who had been through hundreds of battles and had almost perfect melee combat skills. Even if it was an ordinary Konoha warrior in front of him right now, they would still be able to crush him in terms of combat skills. Rog didn't know if Ghost Rider would become very good at fighting in the future. He only knew that the current Ghost Rider was a combat rookie who only had strength but didn't have much skill. Yes, he was just a rookie. Although his head had been separated from his body, with the help of Hellfire, Ghost Rider's body quickly recovered his head and then reattached it. After moving his reattached head, Ghost Rider took off the chain wrapped around his body and covered it with hellfire. Although Ghost Rider was only left with a skeleton, it didn't mean that he really had no brain. Although he didn't have a formal fight with Rog, Ghost Rider knew very well that he was far from being Rog's opponent in melee combat. In that case he would use chain technique, which he was better at, to deal with him. Although fighting with chains didn't look like much, it was also a skill. In particular, for Ghost Rider, this was a combat technique that required profound techniques. When the chain in his hand was wrapped in hellfire, Ghost Rider didn't hesitate and attacked again. Unlike the previous straightforward attack, Ghost Rider, who used chain technique, finally looked a little bit like a warrior. The hellfire chain attacked Rog like a viper, and the seemingly simple chain became extremely flexible in the hands of Ghost Rider. Clang, clang, clang. Before the hellfire chain hit Rog, it was swung away one by the northern cold sword in his hand, turning into an irregular arc. The hellfire chain that was swung away didn't fall to the ground, nor was it taken back. It flew out of thin air and attacked Rog again. The orange-red hellfire chain was constantly thrown at Rog, but Rog didn't move a step. He stood in place and swung the northern cold sword again and again. In the eyes of the onlookers, Ghost Rider at this time was like a beast tamer who was taming a beast. And Rog was the beast bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. Chapter 306. From the looks of it, Ghost Rider had completely taken the initiative. Under his attack, Rog could only passively defend. But in fact, Rog was just testing the Northern Cold Saber's ability to take hits. Ever since he had created the Northern Cold Saber, he hadn't officially tested its ability, so he didn't mind testing it in actual combat. Little Black didn't have any objections to Rog's approach. As a weapon, he knew his duty very well. Moreover, when he was on the Golden Jack, Rog had already communicated with him about this. Ghost Rider's chain technique was indeed very exquisite, and could even be considered a pretty good offensive technique. But for Rog, Ghost Rider's chain technique was still a little too monotonous. There were only a few moves back and forth, and the only thing to note was that the angle of attack was different every time. After neutralizing Ghost Rider's chain attacks one by one, Rog finally ended his passive defense and began to take the initiative to attack. Water Release, Water Dragon Bullet. Rog raised his left hand slightly, and a water dragon dozens of meters long appeared out of thin air and rushed at Ghost Rider like lightning. It was common sense to use water to put out a fire. In the eyes of the onlookers, not only was there no problem with Rog's counterattack, it was also a very wise choice. However, both Rog and Ghost Rider knew very well that hellfire wasn't an ordinary flame. It was purely wishful thinking to use water release to put out the hellfire on Ghost Rider. The menacing water dragon crashed into Ghost Rider, and the huge impact made Ghost Rider involuntarily take a few steps back. Then there was nothing else. The hellfire on Ghost Rider's body was still burning fiercely, and the water dragon quickly evaporated and shrank, turning into steam. The pervasive water vapor shrouded the Ghost Rider like a fog, causing it to completely disappear from everyone's sight. After Ghost Rider's figure was shrouded in the mist, the chain wrapped around the hellfire was also withdrawn, as if guarding against Rog's sudden attack. The moment the hellfire chain was withdrawn, Rog raised his right hand again, and silver-white lightning surged out of his palm. Lightning evasion, lightning palm. More than a dozen silver-white lightning bolts as thick as an arm attacked Ghost Rider like giant dragons. The loud thunderclaps made the surrounding crowd involuntarily take a few steps back, afraid that they would be affected by the lightning. Rumble. The thunder palm hit Ghost Rider in the mist without any suspense. The collision between the silver-white lightning and the hellfire cleared the surrounding mist, and Ghost Rider's figure reappeared in front of everyone. Compared to before he disappeared, Ghost Rider's appearance had clearly changed. Hellfire could protect Ghost Rider himself, but it couldn't protect his clothes. Under the attack of the silver lightning, Ghost Rider's clothes were torn to shreds. Apart from the shoes on his feet, which were still intact, Ghost Rider's clothes and pants had all turned into pieces and fell to the ground. Wrapped in hellfire, Ghost Rider's true form appeared in front of everyone for the first time. After seeing Ghost Rider's true form, people finally confirmed one fact. Ghost Rider really wasn't human. Although the Ghost Rider from before didn't look like a normal human, seeing a burning skull and seeing a burning human skeleton were two completely different concepts. Ghost Rider really was the legendary emissary of hell. At this moment, no one would think that Ghost Rider was a human with extraordinary powers, but a true visitor from hell. Making Ghost Rider run naked hadn't been Rog's original plan. He didn't have such a bad taste. He had used the Thunder Palm to attack Ghost Rider just to test if the lightning attribute could hurt Ghost Rider under the protection of Hellfire. It was purely a coincidence that his clothes had been torn to pieces. Although losing his clothes wouldn't affect Ghost Rider too much after all, he was only a skeleton now. But after losing all his clothes, Ghost Rider still let out a beast-like howl and ran toward Rog. Ghost Rider was angry. Although he was just a skeleton now and didn't need to worry about being naked, this was a matter of dignity. Skeletons also needed dignity. For the sprinting Ghost Rider, the distance of dozens of meters was covered in the blink of an eye. It was only when Ghost Rider pounced on him like a hungry wolf that Rog moved again. Northern Cold Blade slashed out several times in an instant, and before Ghost Rider could touch Rog, he was instantly cut into pieces. The complete skeleton was instantly split into several pieces and fell to the ground. But the next second, the dismembered Ghost Rider got up again and pounced at Rog. With the undying body granted by Hellfire, Ghost Rider didn't need to care about Rog's attack at all. Not to mention being cut into pieces, even if Rog disassembled every bone of Ghost Rider could reassemble himself. Although Ghost Rider's attacks were fierce, they were useless in front of Rog. In the blink of an eye, Ghost Rider was dismembered again. Then the Ghost Rider stood up again, attacked again, and was dismembered once more. At this moment, Ghost Rider displayed unprecedented tenacity. Relying on its undying body, it turned the battle into a protracted battle. After knocking down Ghost Rider dozens of times, Rog finally got tired of this repetitive battle. A ball of chakra appeared in his left hand. Sealing spell, 4 symbols seal. When Ghost Rider stood up again, Rog arrived in front of him at lightning speed. He pressed his left hand on Ghost Rider's chest and pressed him to the ground. Boom. Ghost Rider fell to the ground with a loud bang, and the sealing power of the 4 symbols seal instantly flowed through his body. Sealing techniques were always a good choice for these enemies who had stronger vitality than cockroaches. The moment the 4 symbols seal took effect, Ghost Rider felt a powerful binding force that it had never felt before, and the hellfire burning on its body couldn't help but dim. It was absolutely impossible to completely seal Ghost Rider with just the 4 symbols seal. Ghost Rider's master was the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. If Ghost Rider was so easy to deal with, Ghost Rider wouldn't have become the strongest subordinate of the Lord of Hell. Before Ghost Rider, who was pressed to the ground, could resist, Rogue's eyes turned into Mangekyo Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan Dojutsu, boundless manifestation. Without any hesitation, when Ghost Rider's hellfire was at its weakest under the suppression of the 4 symbols seal, Rog decisively activated the Mangekyo Sharingan's right eye. Chapter 307. This was the first time that Rog had used omniscient phenomena on an uncooperative target. The last time he used it, he obtained the ability of quantum transmission from Gordon, which made up for his lack of teleportation. However, not only did Gordon not put up any resistance when he unleashed the boundless nature, he was even very cooperative. Unlike Gordon, Ghost Rider obviously had no intention of cooperating with Rog. Although Ghost Rider didn't know what Rog wanted to do, he instinctively sensed danger when he saw Rog's Mangekyo Sharingan. Ghost Rider tried to resist Rog's suppression, but the shackles of the 4 symbols seal completely cut off this idea. The powerful binding force of the 4 symbols seal not only dimmed the blazing hellfire, but also made it extremely difficult to control it. Hellfire, which could originally be controlled at will, seemed to have fallen into a sluggish state at this time, and its response time was greatly extended. Rog ignored Ghost Rider's resistance. Whether Ghost Rider was willing or not, he would plunder Ghost Rider's hellfire. Hellfire was a supernatural flame that originated from the depths of hell. Not only did it have powerful attack power, but it also had its own enchantment ability. Ghost Rider's Hellfire motorcycle and Hell's chains were the products of Hellfire enchantment. And for Rog, who planned to go to Hell, Hellfire was his ticket to Hell. Although the infinite mode he developed could also give him the ability to survive in various environments, in Hell, Hellfire was obviously more useful than his infinite mode. Therefore, whether it was from the perspective of enhancing his own strength or to go to Hell, he had to get Hellfire. Omniscient phenomena was used, and the eye power of the Mangekyo Sharingan began to cover Ghost Rider's body. As Ghost Rider struggled, the omniscient phenomena in Rog's right eye devoured the hellfire on his body like a black hole. The ability plundered by omniscient phenomena wouldn't appear directly on Rog's body, but would be sealed in his right eye. Therefore, Rog didn't have to worry about hellfire burning his body and chakra. As for whether the hellfire would conflict with the quantum teleportation ability sealed in his right eye, he was not particularly worried for the time being. Only Gordon's quantum teleportation ability was sealed in his kaleidoscope's right eye. Even with Ghost Rider's hellfire, he only had 2 abilities. Plundering too many abilities could lead to a backlash, but since he had only plundered 2 abilities, he didn't need to worry about that for the time being. With his current ability, he had absolute confidence that he could safely contain the hellfire without any backlash. The plundering of omniscient nature didn't last long. To be precise, it only lasted for about a minute before it completely ended. When a trace of exhaustion and burning feeling came from his right eye, Rog removed the Mangekyo Sharingan and turned his eyes back to the 3-Tomo Sharingan. He was tired because he had used up too much eye energy. As for the burning sensation, it was a sign that the hellfire had been successfully plundered. After taking a deep breath, Rog's body emitted a brilliant aurora-like light. Quantum teleportation. He didn't want any onlookers to see what happened next, so he took Ghost Rider directly to a forest more than 100 kilometers away. As for whether Ghost Rider's Hellfire motorcycle would be impounded by the Houston police, it wasn't within his consideration. And even if it was, Ghost Rider had a way to get it back, so he didn't have to worry about it at all. After teleporting to this unknown forest, Rog let go of Ghost Rider's left hand and let Ghost Rider, who had lost more than half of his Hellfire, stand up. Because his Hellfire had been plundered, Ghost Rider looked much weaker than before, and there was much less Hellfire burning on his body. Until now, Ghost Rider still didn't know what Rog had done to him. The only thing he remembered was that he saw Rog's strange blood-red eyes, and then a part of the Hellfire on his body inexplicably disappeared forever. If the upper limit of his Hellfire before was 100, his current upper limit was only 50. As for the 50 that disappeared, it naturally went to Rog. At this thought, Ghost Rider looked at Rog with a strange gaze. To be precise, it wasn't his gaze. After all, he didn't have eyes in the normal sense, and there were only 2 balls of Hellfire burning in his eye sockets. "What did you do to me?" Ghost Rider asked. Although he was already very familiar with Hellfire, he still couldn't understand what had just happened. "Didn't you already feel it? I plundered your Hellfire." As soon as he said that, Rog raised his left hand and summoned the Hellfire that Ghost Rider was extremely familiar with. Looking at the Hellfire in Rog's left hand, Ghost Rider fell into deep thought. He had always thought that Hellfire was a power given to him by the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, and that it was a curse imposed on him after he signed the contract. But Rog proved that he was wrong. Rog didn't sign a contract with Mephisto, but he could also use Hellfire. Moreover, Ghost Rider quickly realized that he was different from Rog. When he used Hellfire, Hellfire would burn his flesh and blood, turning him into a skeleton. But when Rog used Hellfire, he could still maintain his human form, and his left hand was still in the normal form of flesh and blood. "How did you do it? Why can you maintain your human form?" Ghost Rider pointed at Rog's left hand and asked in confusion. "As long as the Hellfire doesn't burn my body, it's fine, just like how you don't let the Hellfire burn your clothes. And I'm different from you. I'm not Ghost Rider. I don't have your messy things in my body either. I can maintain my human form if I want to," Rog explained casually. The reason why Ghost Rider was in the form of a skeleton was not only because of Hellfire, but also because of their origins. Although Hellfire was the signature power of Ghost Rider, its true power didn't come from Hellfire, but from the spirit of vengeance. Only a Ghost Rider possessed by the spirit of vengeance was a true Ghost Rider. Therefore, Rog, who only used Hellfire, had nothing to do with Ghost Rider, much less possess its skeleton form. Although Ghost Rider didn't quite understand the second half of what Rog said, he roughly understood why Rog could maintain his normal human form. Looking at Rog, who was no longer hostile, Ghost Rider removed the Hellfire on his body and turned himself back into a human, a naked human. Chapter 308. The Ghost Rider burning with Hellfire disappeared, and in its place was a middle-aged man who wasn't very strong. After sizing up the middle-aged man, Rog summoned a black coat from the summon scroll and threw it over. The moment Roger saw the middle-aged man, he recognized his identity. Johnny Blaze, a well-known motorcycle stunt driver, was famous for his death-seeking stunts. Before Konoha's intelligence department investigated the Ghost Rider, Rog had already noticed Johnny. But at that time, Johnny didn't show any abnormalities, so he didn't pay too much attention to him. Although Johnny was the most famous Ghost Rider, he wasn't the only one who could become the Ghost Rider. After all, no one could guarantee that the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, would choose Johnny. As the Lord of Hell, Mephisto could sign a contract with anyone he wanted. Johnny just happened to appear in Mephisto's line of sight at the right time. What exactly do you want from me? After putting on the black coat that Rog had thrown over, Johnny asked. In the form of the Ghost Rider, he didn't remember Rog's identity. But after returning to his human form, when his human rationality completely returned, he immediately recognized Rog's identity. The director of Konoha's intelligence department, the fourth Hokage of the superhero, no matter which identity it was enough to make Johnny pay 120% attention. Although Johnny hadn't had any contact with Konoha, he had heard of Konoha's domineering style. It's not a big deal, I just want you to take me to hell. Rog said casually, his tone so flat that it was as if he was talking about when to leave for a trip. Through Panorama, he had plundered Hellfire from Johnny, but this wasn't enough for him to go to hell. Hellfire was like a train ticket and Ghost Rider was the train to hell. Go to hell? Are you kidding me? For others, hell was a fictional world that only existed in legends. But for Johnny, hell was real because Mephisto, who had turned him into what he was now, came from hell. Do I look like I'm joking? Although I plundered your Hellfire, only Ghost Rider can freely travel between hell and the human world. So, if I want to go to hell, I need your help. Rog said with a serious face. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't find another way to go to hell, he wouldn't have needed to look for Johnny. I'm sorry I can't help you. Although I know about the existence of hell, I have never been to hell and I don't want to go to hell. After a few seconds of silence, Johnny gave his answer and rejected Rog's suggestion. Because of the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, Johnny wasn't interested in anything related to hell. If he could, he even wished that he had never known about the existence of hell. He wished that he had never met the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. That's a pity. I thought that you, who had your life changed by Mephisto, would at least have some intention of taking revenge on Mephisto. Since you're willing to use your entire life to capture souls for Mephisto, I won't disturb you any further. Have a good day. With that, Rog turned and left. Although going to hell wasn't a bad plan, it didn't matter if he really couldn't go. In any case, there were good challenge dungeons in other places besides hell. So, there was no need for him to go to hell. Watching Rog's figure gradually disappear into the distance, Johnny sighed and said, Wait, can you tell me why you want to go to hell first? Johnny didn't ask why Rog knew about Mephisto, nor did he ask how he knew about him and Mephisto. Now, he only wanted to know what Rog wanted to do in hell. If Rog's purpose in going to hell had something to do with Mephisto, they might really have a chance to work together. If I said that I'm going to hell to have some fun, would you believe me? Then does your fun have anything to do with Mephisto? Of course. Of course, Rog wouldn't tell Johnny his true motive. Even if he did, Johnny might not believe him. Going to hell to have some fun was just a euphemism. The truth was that he wanted to go to hell to meet Mephisto and see how big the gap was between him and Mephisto. I heard that you have a hobby of accepting commissions from others. I wonder if I have the qualifications to do so. After thinking for a few seconds, Johnny asked. That depends on what your commission is about. If it can interest me, it's not impossible to accept your commission. Rog didn't expect Johnny to take the initiative to mention the commission. Just like you said, although I look free now, I'm actually capturing souls for Mephisto. You should already know about what happened between me and Mephisto, so I won't say much. I was indeed too naive back then, but I don't want to be a puppet in his hands for the rest of my life. I want to take back my life. I'll take you to hell and in return, I hope you can fight Mephisto with me. Don't you want to go to hell to have some fun? There shouldn't be anything more exciting than fighting the Lord of Hell Mephisto in hell. He didn't know if Johnny had suddenly thought of something, or if he was going to go all out. His suggestion was inexplicably to Rog's liking. Although I don't know why Mephisto chose you back then, I have to say that I like your personality very much. As soon as he said that, Rog summoned an unused commission scroll from the medium scroll and tossed the scroll and pen to Johnny. Write down your commission. The content is to work together to fight against the Lord of Hell Mephisto. The reward is for you to take me to hell. Not long after Rog finished speaking, Johnny finished writing the commission and returned the scroll to him. Commission content. Work together with Ghost Rider Johnny to fight against the Lord of Hell Mephisto. Commission status, incomplete. Commission reward, 200 ninja coins. Johnny's commission passed the system's judgment without any suspense, and because it involved a high-level existence like the Lord of Hell Mephisto, the commission reward given by the system was also very generous. A commission reward of 200 ninja coins. Rog remembered that the last time this number appeared was when he captured Loki in the Battle of New York. I'll accept your commission. After receiving Johnny's request scroll, Roger gestured for Johnny to go ahead with his hand. What do you mean? Johnny glanced at Rog and asked doubtfully. Open the passage to hell. If you don't go to hell, you can't complete the commission. I don't know how to open the passage to hell. Johnny answered softly. Chapter 309. Are you kidding me? When he first heard that Rog was going to hell, Johnny thought that Rog was joking with him. But now it was Rog who felt that Johnny was joking with him. Looking at Johnny, who answered in a low voice and lowered his head silently, Rog suddenly regretted accepting the commission. Johnny had just said a lot to him, showing that he was going to fight Mephisto to the death. But as soon as he finished writing the commission scroll, such a funny thing happened. I have to calm down, I can't be angry. Killing the employer will cause the commission to fail, I can't let the commission fail. I have to calm down, I have to calm down. If the system hadn't already approved Johnny's commission, Rog really had the urge to strangle Johnny. It's okay, everyone calm down first. Ghost riders can freely travel between the human world and hell. You just don't know how to open the channel yet. That's not a big problem. I just need to practice. After saying that, Roger suppressed his anger and patted Johnny's shoulder. Then he continued, do you want to summon your motorcycle? If not, we'll leave now. Johnny just didn't know how to open the channel yet. This wasn't difficult for Rog, who was good at guiding others to master their own strength. Wasn't it just training a rookie ghost rider into a skilled craftsman? This wasn't difficult for him. Wait a minute, I'll summon it now. Johnny still had feelings for his motorcycle. After all, it was a motorcycle that he had personally modified. After waiting for more than 10 minutes in this unknown forest, Johnny's ghost motorcycle finally arrived in front of them. Without waiting for Johnny to turn back into a human, Rog used quantum teleportation and teleported himself and Johnny back to Konoha's headquarters. In order to avoid any unnecessary interference, Rog arranged for the teleportation to be in his private training room. This is my private training room. No one will come here except for me. You will practice here in the future. I'll have Hinata arrange internal permissions for you. You'll live in Konoha during this time. We'll leave after you learn how to travel to hell. After that, Rog left the training room and returned to his office. He doesn't need to worry about Johnny's life in Konoha. Hinata will take care of it. What he needs to do is to familiarize Johnny with the power he already has. For example, the dimensional teleportation ability to freely travel between the human world and hell. While training Johnny, he also needed to familiarize himself with the hellfire that he had just plundered. Hellfire was undoubtedly the best choice when dealing with hell creatures. After all, this was the origin energy from the depths of hell. It could cause irresistible true damage to hell creatures. In this way, Johnny settled down in Konoha and began his first real Ghost Rider training. Although the hellfire and the spirit of vengeance had given Johnny extraordinary strength, he was still a complete novice when it came to the use of power. In order to let Johnny familiarize himself with his Ghost Rider powers, Rog had no choice but to be his instructor, teaching him how to adapt to his powers and how to use them to the greatest extent. From a warrior's point of view, Johnny didn't have much talent. But fortunately, his learning and comprehension abilities weren't bad, so teaching him wasn't particularly difficult. Time passed little by little, and after teaching Johnny for more than a month, Johnny finally learned the dimensional teleportation that he should have known long ago. Late the next night, Rog, who had put on his armor and Yondame's Hokage Haori, used quantum teleportation to bring Johnny, who had transformed into a Ghost Rider, to a certain section of Route 66. Route 66 was a famous American highway with the name Mother's Road. On this nearly 4,000-kilometer-long road, there were many sections that were rarely visited. After teleporting to a random section of the road, Rog first put on a chakra coat, and then covered the chakra coat with hellfire. After doing all this, Rog got on the ghost bike that Johnny was driving. In Rog's memory, there were two ways for Ghost Rider Johnny to go to hell. One was to drive the ghost bike at maximum speed, and the other was to create a heptagram array. He didn't know how to create a heptagram array, and neither did Johnny, so they could only choose the most simple and crude method. Let's begin. To be honest, Rog didn't really like the feeling of sitting in the back seat of the ghost bike, especially when the one driving it was a man. But now he didn't have any other better choice. He could indeed use hellfire to create his own ghost bike, but the ghost bike he created wouldn't have the ability to travel through hell. The ghost bike that Johnny was driving began to gradually accelerate, like an orange-red meteor across Route 66, leaving an extremely obvious high-temperature tire mark on the road. The ghost bike's speed was getting faster and faster, and when the ghost bike's speed reached its limit, a small Hell's Gate appeared out of thin air. At the moment when this Hell's Gate composed entirely of hellfire appeared, the Ancient One in the New York sanctum frowned slightly. Hell's Gate, this guy is getting more and more restless. Although he sensed the appearance of Hell's Gate, Sorcerer Supreme Gu-E did not plan to stop Roger and Johnny. The reason is simple: the Hell's Gate they opened is a one-way passage to Hell. This Hell's Gate can allow them to go to Hell, but the creatures in Hell can't go to the human world through this Hell's Gate. Therefore, Ancient One didn't bother to stop Rog and Johnny and tolerated their restless little actions. Going from Earth to Hell, this kind of thing can't be hidden from Ancient One, and Rog doesn't intend to hide it from Ancient One. When he returns from Hell, he will go to the New York sanctum to officially visit Ancient One, so he doesn't mind letting Ancient One know in advance that he has been to Hell. If he wanted to hide it from Ancient One, he wouldn't have let Johnny open Hell's Gate on Earth. Tatooine can also go to Hell. When the ghost motorcycle rushed into the Hell's Gate, the Hell's Gate made of Hell's fire disappeared as well, as if it had never appeared. Before going to Hell, Rog had been fantasizing about what kind of world Hell would be like. However, when he really came to Hell, he found that Hell was not as good as he imagined. The scene that appeared in front of him at this time was completely different from what he imagined. He thought it would be a very bizarre world, but in fact Hell looks like a hot red world. There are no stars in the sky, nor is there a so-called sun, and the whole world is shrouded in red light. There are no plants on the earth, and there is no greenery, only weathered stone pillars and a dead desert. Chapter 310. Looking at his surroundings, Rog shook his head in disappointment. Looking at the scene in front of him, rather than saying that this was the legendary Hell, it was more like an unknown alien planet. While Rog was looking around, Johnny was also looking around curiously. Although Johnny was a ghost rider, this was his first time in Hell. And unlike Rog, Johnny didn't have experience in other worlds, so everything in front of him was a new experience. Compared with Earth, which was full of oxygen, the air in Hell was full of poisonous gases, and there was also the smell of sulfur. With the protection of chakra and hellfire, Rog could survive in Hell as a human. But considering the consumption of chakra, he removed the chakra coat and switched it to unlimited mode, which consumed less energy. With his current amount of chakra, which was as high as 9 taels, he didn't need to care about the consumption of chakra coat. But in a place like Hell, where danger was everywhere, it was better to conserve chakra as much as possible. And apart from the consumption of chakra, he also discovered another limitation of Hell. Compared with Earth, the energy density in Hell was much higher, even about the same as Asgard's. However, the energy attributes of Hell were very extreme, so extreme that Rog wondered if he could still use immortal mode. The energy density in Hell was very high, and the attributes were very extreme. This also meant that the creatures in Hell were stronger than he had imagined. Where are we going next? Johnny turned around and asked. Although he didn't like Hell very much, he had to admit that after coming to Hell in his Ghost Rider form, he felt as excited as if he had returned home. Even the hellfire burning on his body became more vigorous. Anywhere is fine. No matter where we go, we'll definitely run into Mephisto in the end. This was Mephisto's territory. Even if Rog and the others didn't look for Mephisto, Mephisto would still come looking for them. The only difference was when. As he answered Johnny, Rog summoned his transportation tool from the psychic scroll, the Dodge Tomahawk. Compared with motorcycles, Rog preferred sports cars. However, in a place like Hell, a sports car was not as practical as a motorcycle. Especially after the Hellfire demonization, the advantage of the sports car would be further weakened. When Rog summoned the prepared Dodge Tomahawk motorcycle, Ghost Rider Johnny couldn't help but sigh. As a motorcycle stunt rider, Johnny was certainly not unfamiliar with the Dodge Tomahawk. The Dodge Tomahawk was the fastest motorcycle produced by the Chrysler Automobile Company. Its top speed was over 676 kilometers per hour. An 8.3-liter V10 engine with 500 horsepower. Unlike ordinary motorcycles with single front and rear wheels, the Dodge Tomahawk was designed with 2 front and rear wheels. A special suspension system allowed the Dodge Tomahawk to keep all 4 wheels touching the ground when turning to avoid slipping when turning. In addition to its great horsepower and many wheels, the shape of the Dodge Tomahawk was equally stunning. The silver-white paint and the sci-fi appearance of the Bat motorcycle made the Dodge Tomahawk look even more impressive. Johnny had once fantasized about buying a Dodge Tomahawk, but the high price and the law that prohibited it from being on the road made him give up the idea in the end. Are all superheroes as rich as you? After observing the Dodge Tomahawk enviously, Johnny asked in confusion. How should I put it? Superheroes are the same as ordinary people. They are divided into the rich and the poor. I'm considered to have a little bit of money. With a super rich man like Tani around, Rog didn't dare to say that he was relatively rich. After all, until now, his private savings were only a few $1 billion, which was far from being comparable to Tani. After summoning the Dodge Tomahawk, Rog controlled the Hellfire and began to demonize his personal ride. Just like Johnny's ghost motorcycle, after the Hellfire covered the Dodge Tomahawk, the originally sci-fi-looking Dodge Tomahawk instantly turned from sci-fi to demonic. The silver-white paint turned into a bone-like grayish-white, the forefront and rear wheels turned into blazing hellfire, the heavy body turned into a skeleton, and the front of the motorcycle turned into the shape of a skull. Although the overall shape didn't change much, the Dodge Tomahawk that had been demonized by Hellfire had completely transformed from a product of Earth's technology into a product of Hell. Let's go, let's meet the natives of Hell. After sitting on the demonized Dodge Tomahawk, Rog turned his head and said to Johnny, and then directly twisted the throttle to the limit. As soon as his voice fell, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk rushed forward like a missile and quickly disappeared from Johnny's sight. The undemonized Dodge Tomahawk can reach an amazing speed of 676 kilometers per hour. After being demonized by Hellfire, the speed of the Dodge Tomahawk has undergone a qualitative change. Within a few seconds, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk driven by Rog accelerated to more than 1,200 kilometers per hour. Then, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk broke through the sound barrier like a roaring dragon, leaving a white fog-like air shock wave behind it. Rumble. Only in a place like Hell did Rog dare to drive the Dodge Tomahawk at such a speed. No wonder there were so many racers in the world. The word, extreme speed, really made a man's blood boil. Johnny never expected that Rog, who looked like a gentleman, would be even crazier than a professional stunt driver like him when he raced. In order not to be shaken off by Rog, in order to catch up to Rog's taillights, Johnny began to speed up silently, and started a lawless race with Rog that didn't require any communication. While Rog and Johnny were racing recklessly in Hell, Mephisto, who was somewhere in Hell, frowned in puzzlement. As a lord of Hell, Mephisto was more sensitive to the abnormalities of Hell than ordinary people could imagine. At that moment, Mephisto sensed an extremely unfamiliar and an extremely familiar life aura. The unfamiliar one was of course Rog's aura. And the familiar one was naturally Ghost Rider Johnny's. TSK. He actually came looking for me. This isn't something Ghost Rider should do. Mephisto wasn't surprised by Ghost Rider Johnny's appearance. As long as Johnny familiarized himself with Ghost Rider's power to a certain extent, he would master the way to travel through Hell sooner or later. But what Mephisto didn't expect was that Johnny would actually bring an unfamiliar human to Hell. Arrange a welcoming party for my knight and let him feel the warmth of his hometown. Mephisto, who was sitting on a huge skeleton throne, said indifferently. After he finished speaking, several demons of different shapes appeared in the empty hall in front of him. Chapter 311. At that moment, Rog didn't know that Mephistos had already arranged a welcoming party for them. But even if he did, he wouldn't have cared too much. It was only a matter of time before Mephistos discovered them. Besides, they had no intention of hiding their tracks at all. Two ghost motorcycles with completely different appearances sped across the plains like two flaming meteors as they barged into the gathering place of the Hell demons. On the surface, it looked like Rog and Johnny were just speeding along aimlessly. But in fact, Rog had already locked onto the life energy signal in front of him. The life form of demons was completely different from humans, but in Rog's perception, they were not much different from the humans on Earth. The only difference was that demons had stronger life energy, and the light they emitted was more dazzling. Johnny, who was following behind Rog, had no idea what Rog was planning. Logically speaking, as a Ghost Rider he should be the main character of this trip to Hell. But after being personally taught by Rog for more than a month, he decisively gave up this right. Professional matters had to be handled by professionals, and in Johnny's eyes, Rog was a professional. When Rog and Johnny drove the ghost motorcycles to the gathering place of the demons in the distance sensed their presence. To be precise, they sensed Rog's presence. This was Hell, and the human aura emitted by Rog was as obvious as the moon in the night sky. As long as these demons had some sensory abilities, they would be able to sense the aura on Rog that didn't belong to Hell at all. Almost the moment they sensed Rog's human aura, these demons of all shapes and sizes became extremely excited. They weren't excited because they had discovered Rog, but because Rog's existence had evoked their desire for human flesh and blood. In the eyes of the demons, the humans on Earth were simply moving treasures. Torturing and killing human lives gave them an indescribable pleasure. Devouring human flesh and blood gave them a taste of the best delicacies that hell had never had before. Imprisoning a human soul allowed them to experience an unforgettable sense of accomplishment. No matter what it did to humans, it would bring them instinctive pleasure. This was also the main reason why the demons in hell never forgot about the humans on earth. However, since the appearance of the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, it has become more and more difficult for the demons in hell to invade the earth, so difficult that they may not succeed even if they give up their lives. The days of being able to easily bewitch humans to harvest souls were over. Even the Lord of Hell, Mephistos, could only use the Ghost Rider method to harvest souls, let alone ordinary demons like them. Therefore, in the eyes of these demons, Rog was not an intruder but a treasure that had delivered itself to their doorstep, a treasure that could bring them supreme joy. Without any hesitation, after discovering Rog's traces, these demons dashed toward Rog one after another, fearing that they wouldn't be able to get anything if they were late. Rog did not know what these demons were thinking, but he stopped the ghost motorcycle when he saw them rushing toward him excitedly. "What's the matter?" Johnny, who was behind him, stopped and asked doubtfully. "There is a group of demons rushing toward us. There are quite a few of them and they seem to be very excited." Although he hadn't seen these demons yet, and the life energy signals he sensed wouldn't reflect any emotional changes, but the speed of those demons rushing to be the first was enough for Rog to make a judgment. A group of very excited demons? Johnny froze for a moment, then continued to ask, "How is their strength? Will they be difficult to deal with?" Johnny has been a Ghost Rider for a while, but he doesn't have much combat experience. The enemies he used to deal with were all human criminals, and with his strength, it was completely one-sided, so he hasn't gained any useful experience. Especially after being taught by Rog for more than a month, Johnny realized how bad his combat skills were. In Roger's words, any one of Konoha's combatants would be able to defeat him in terms of combat skills. The energy intensity is not bad, but it's hard to say how strong they are. Energy intensity was energy intensity, and strength was strength. For experienced people, energy intensity was equivalent to strength to a certain extent. But it also depended on who the person was. Johnny the Ghost Rider was a good example. After transforming into a Ghost Rider, Johnny's energy intensity was stronger than that of the Punisher Abomination and the others combined. But in a real battle, the Punisher Abomination alone could play with Johnny until he couldn't fight back. "Then should we retreat for now?" Johnny asked uncertainly. He was just a stunt rider. Although he had some combat experience after transforming into a Ghost Rider, he was far from being a real warrior. "No need, and there's no point in hiding. They'll catch up sooner or later. Let's use them as an appetizer. We'll split them in half so that they won't say that I'm taking advantage of you." With that, Rog started the ghost bike again and drove toward the demons in the distance. As for whether Johnny would follow, he didn't really care. If Johnny didn't even have the guts, he wouldn't have needed to look for Mephisto. He would just obediently be Mephisto's puppet. Looking at Rog getting further and further away, Johnny stood there for a few seconds before finally starting the ghost bike and chasing after him. Aren't they just a bunch of excited demons? Let's do it. Not long after, the group of excited demons appeared in front of Rog and Johnny. The environment of hell was completely different from what Rog had imagined, and the appearance of these demons was also different from what he had imagined. There were no triangular tails, curved horns, or bat-like wings. Apart from the fact that their skin color was similar to that of the legendary demons, the demons that appeared in front of Rog and Johnny weren't demons at all. Rog also saw some typical man-made products on these demons. These demons actually knew how to use weapons. Although their weapons looked very old and some of them even had obvious cracks, it was clear that these were their weapons. There weren't many demons with weapons, not even half of them. Most of the demons were still bare-handed, if their forelimbs could be considered hands. Just looking at the appearance of these demons, it was hard to believe that they were products of the same race. There were only a few dozen demons in front of them, but Rog had already seen more than 10 forms. And this was only the vanguard. Chapter 312. So this is a demon. I wonder how it feels to chop them up? Sizing up the eager demons in front of him, Rog got off the ghost bike and pulled out the northern cold blade at his waist. Then he walked step by step toward the demons in the distance. It wasn't his style to fight on the ghost bike. To him, the ghost bike was just not a means of transportation. Compared to a knight, he preferred to be a warrior. The demons in the distance didn't know what Rog was thinking, but when they saw Rog walking toward them, these demons of all shapes and sizes revealed greedy expressions. "This human is mine." All the demons had the same thought. The demons in hell weren't a race that liked to share. To them, monopolizing all the benefits was an instinct that was engraved in the depths of their souls. Rather than hoping that these guys would learn to share, it was better to hope that they would become vegetarians. At least this way the chances would be higher. In order to monopolize Rog, this human, to taste the long-awaited delicacy, and to satisfy their greed, these demons attacked almost at the same time. Compared to these fierce demons, Rog, who was wielding the northern cold blade, seemed a little weak, like a helpless lamb that had barged into a pack of wolves. I can only kill 17 of the 34 demons. That's not enough. Only Rog would have such a thought when facing the attacks of more than 30 demons. Behind him, Johnny, the Ghost Rider, saw so many demons swarming over, and the first reaction in his mind was to retreat. It wasn't that Johnny was timid, but that he had a normal reaction that a normal person would have. It wasn't Johnny who was wrong but Rog. Just as Johnny was considering whether he should help Rog was already fighting with the demons. The black northern cold blade slashed at one of the demons like black lightning. The dull blade instantly cut through the demon's arm and chopped off his entire right hand. After cutting off the demon's arm, the first thought that came to Rog's mind was that the demon's blood was red. Although a strange thought appeared in his mind, his attack did not stop at all. The northern cold saber in his hand flew up and down, drawing out one black arc after another. Every time the northern cold blade swung out, it would take away a part of the demon's body. Be it an arm, a leg or a head. At this moment Rog was even more demonic than these demons. He was mercilessly and efficiently killing these natives of hell. If it were other intelligent creatures facing Rog's extremely efficient slaughter, they would involuntarily feel fear and retreat. However, the demons in hell were not ordinary intelligent creatures. Not only did Rog's massacre not make them feel the slightest fear, but it also aroused the bloodlust in their hearts, making them even crazier. All kinds of weapons and sharp claws attacked Rog. Some of the demons who had mastered energy attacks even threw magma-like long-range attacks at Rog. These demons' attacks could not be said to be weak, and the damage they caused was also very substantial. Unfortunately, these injuries did not appear on Rog's body. Because of their size, the smallest demon here was almost half a meter taller than Rog. Not to mention there were some demons that were 7 or 8 meters tall. Being small meant that the target was small, which meant that the hit rate was low. Most of the fierce attacks of the demons landed on their own kind. As for the remaining ones, Rog easily dodged them. These demons used their actions to prove what was the correct way to injure teammates. From Rog and Johnny's point of view, these demons were a team. But in reality, these demons had nothing to do with the so-called team. They only appeared at the same place at the same time to try to capture the same target. Therefore, injuring teammates was not in their consideration at all. And the more demons died, the fewer competitors they had. Who said that demons only knew how to act recklessly. Sometimes they could be quick-witted, such as now. Facing these demons' siege, Rog displayed exquisite close combat skills, as if he was a merciless killing machine. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere and screams were heard. Under Rog's storm-like attacks, these demons looked like they were beaten up badly, but in reality they did not suffer any serious casualties. Until now, there were only 5 or 6 demons that had truly lost their lives. Although the demons' regenerative ability was not as crazy as the symbiotic demons, their unique life form gave them the tenacious vitality of a cockroach. Injuries that could be fatal to ordinary creatures were only minor injuries to them. What was more troublesome was that every demon's fatal parts were not the same. Most creatures had the same weakness. For example, the weakness of humans was the heart and brain. But demons were different. Their hearts and brains were not important, not to mention their limbs and internal organs. To demons, as long as their core was still there, they would not die. The core was not only the core of a demon's life, but also their source of energy. But each demon's core was located in different places. Even if 2 demons looked exactly the same, their cores may not be in the same place. Although the insight of the Sharingan was good, it was not enough for Rog to see the core of these demons. This also caused him to be unable to increase his killing efficiency. Although in the eyes of Johnny and the other demons, his killing efficiency was already amazing, as he had killed 5 to 6 demons in less than 10 minutes, Johnny and the rest of the demons had already been killed. If he had the Byakugan, it would be a lot easier now. At this time, Rog couldn't help but think of the Byakugan. Chapter 313. Although these demons had never seen fire annihilation, they didn't know what ninjutsu was. But they knew hellfire, and that hellfire was a terrifying existence that could completely destroy them. For the demons in hell, There were only two kinds of existences that could make them instinctively feel danger. One was the hellfire from the depths of hell, and the other was a holy weapon from heaven. As for the others, they might take them seriously, but they were absolutely not afraid. This human could actually use hellfire? After discovering this fact, in their eyes, Rog was no longer a moving treasure, but a dangerous creature that could take their lives at any time. Although Rog's body had been wrapped in hellfire, these demons didn't pay too much attention to it at first. After all, not far behind Rog stood a ghost rider. In their view, the hellfire on Rog's body was just a kind of protection given to him by the ghost rider. In a flash, all kinds of thoughts flashed through the demons' minds, including but not limited to going up and risking their lives to escape and so on. But no matter what choice they wanted to make, they now needed to deal with the vast sea of fire that had already arrived in front of them. These demons didn't care about ordinary flames at all. After all, they had unreasonably high fire resistance. But hellfire was different. Not only could hellfire ignore their fire resistance and wantonly burn their bodies, but it could also cause unimaginable damage to their souls. They definitely couldn't dodge it. In order to reduce the damage caused by hellfire as much as possible, these demons made an uncommon but very effective defensive posture. These demons of different shapes and sizes fell to the ground one by one, doing their best to curl up their bodies and protect the core in their bodies. As long as the core was still there, it didn't matter if their bodies were burned. Even if their burnt bodies couldn't grow back, it wasn't a big deal. Rog didn't expect that these demons would actually choose to resist his hellfire release. Fire annihilation. It seemed that he was still underestimated. Although fire annihilation wasn't a ninjutsu he often used, and the power of its attack wasn't particularly outstanding, but there were still not many enemies who dared to resist his fire annihilation. Even Lord-tier symbiotic demons and Warner Protoss elite warriors wouldn't dare to take his Grand Flame Destroyer head-on, not to mention that he was using a special version that was fused with Inferno. Since you're so confident, I'll play with you. With a thought, Rog silently increased the damage output of Chakra and Hellfire. These demons wanted to use their physiques to resist, but Rog planned to burn them to death. Thus, a grand fiery annihilation whose duration and power far exceeded the previous one, was born just like that. In the sea of hellfire created by Grand Fire Extinguisher, miserable howls continuously sounded out. Because of the sea of fire, the surrounding temperature suddenly rose by several degrees. The apocalyptic sea of flames persisted for tens of seconds before Rog finally ended his hellfire escape, Grand Flame Annihilation. The sea of fire gradually disappeared, and the surrounding temperature began to drop. When the flames completely dissipated, the figures of the demons reappeared in front of Rog and Johnny. Compared to before Rog used Hellfire Escape, Grand Flame Annihilation, there were less than 10 demons that could still stand, and all of them were riddled with wounds with burn marks left behind by Grand Fire Extinguisher. More than half of the demons were incinerated, and not even the most basic corpses were left behind. As for the remaining ones, the life force in their bodies had fallen to an unprecedented low. Glancing at the remaining demons, Rog put away the northern cold blade in his hand, and turned to Johnny and said, "I accidentally killed a few more, the rest are yours." Originally, they agreed to split it half, but Rog didn't expect that these demons were more fragile than he thought. After sensing that the life force of these demons were disappearing one by one, he decisively ended his Grand Fire Extinguisher. But even so, more than half of the demons still died in Hellfire Escape, Grand Fire Extinguisher. You should deal with it. You've already beaten them to this extent. It's fine to end them while you're at it. Johnny glanced at the demons who didn't have much vitality left, and hesitated for a few seconds before giving a silent answer. Although he was already a ghost rider, Johnny was still a stunt rider at heart. He wasn't interested in fighting at all. You'd better get used to fighting demons. They're just appetizers who came to us voluntarily. The people sent by Mephistopheles aren't as easy to deal with as they are. I don't want to have to worry about your safety while fighting Mephistopheles. Do you understand? Mephistopheles wasn't a weakling. In Johnny's current state, he had no chance against Mephistopheles at all. Thus, Rog had to make the best use of his time to let Johnny grow up. At the very least, he had to let Johnny get used to fighting demons. Do we really have to do this? Johnny didn't have a good impression of demons, but dealing with these demons who were already riddled with wounds and didn't have much ability to resist made him feel like he was bullying the weak. Don't be so wishy-washy. They're not human. Don't be so saintly, Rog said unhappily. He could understand Johnny's desire to be a good person, but it also depended on the time and the kind of people he was facing. Only an idiot would feel pity for a demon. Under Rog's urging, Johnny slowly walked in front of the demons and turned the chains on his body into ghost chains. What happened next was a one-sided massacre. Although Johnny didn't have much combat experience, a Ghost Rider was a Ghost Rider after all. His combat instincts were enough to crush these demons who didn't have much combat strength left. After Johnny completely ended the lives of these demons, Rog started his ghost bike and continued driving into the distance. How Johnny wanted to digest this battle was his own business. All he had to do was provide a suitable environment for Johnny. As Rog and Johnny drove the ghost bike into the distance, 3 demons with no specific form rushed toward them like ghosts. The demons that had just appeared were just small fries attracted by Rog's human scent. These 3 demons with no specific form were the real feast that Mephistopheles had prepared for them. Stop the bike, we're being watched. The ghost bike that was speeding like a flaming meteor stopped. Rog frowned and pulled out the northern cold blade at his waist. The enemy this time was a little different. Chapter 3:14. Rog sensed the 3 demons rushing toward them. In his perception, the life energy signals of the 3 demons were obviously different. The intensity of their life energy was higher, and he also sensed the existence of natural energy on them. Are there a lot of them? Will they be difficult to deal with? Johnny stopped beside Rog on the ghost motorcycle and asked seriously. Only 3. They'll be harder to deal with than the previous ones. Although they hadn't officially fought and hadn't even seen each other, it could be seen from the intensity of their energy that the enemies this time were more difficult to deal with than the previous ones. Not everyone was like Johnny, who had energy but didn't know how to use it properly. Be mentally prepared. This battle will be a good challenge for you. After saying that, Rog walked down from the ghost motorcycle and pulled out the northern cold blade from his waist. Although the northern cold blade was a weapon, it couldn't be put into the psychic scroll like other weapons. Unless Rog put the northern cold blade, which was Blackie, into a special container and then put the container into the psychic scroll, Blackie, as a living creature, couldn't be put into the psychic scroll. Blackie didn't like the feeling of being imprisoned, and Rog didn't have the hobby of imprisoning his companions, so the northern cold blade became the only weapon he needed to carry with him. After pulling out the northern cold blade from his waist, Rog inserted the pitch-black northern cold blade into the ground and then summoned the disaster pistol that he hadn't used for a while. After summoning the disaster pistol, Rog directly controlled the hellfire to cover it, demonizing the disaster pistol into the evil spirit pistol. Under the hellfire's demonization, the disaster pistol's appearance also changed from the earth style to the evil spirit style. The 2 barrels side by side became entwined with white bones, and the 2 muzzles became the shape of a skull. After the demonization, not only did the disaster pistol's appearance change, but its function also changed. The ability to fire ninjutsu bullets was retained. After all, ninjutsu bullets wouldn't demonize with the hellfire. However, the ability to fire chakra bullets became the ability to fire hellfire bullets. The shooting mode didn't change much. It was still normal shooting, fatal shooting, and ninjutsu bullets. He would use the evil spirit calamity pistol for long-range attacks and the northern cold blade for melee attacks. Before the 3 demons appeared, Rog was already prepared for battle. Looking at Rog loading the disaster pistol with ninjutsu bullets, Johnny also took out a double-barreled shotgun he carried with him, enchanted it into an evil spirit shotgun, and removed the chain wrapped around his body. Everything was ready and waiting for the enemy to come knocking on their door. After standing in place for a few minutes, Rog and Johnny finally saw the enemy they had been waiting for. A whirlwind that was visible to the naked eye arrived in front of them with flying sand. Then it condensed into a human figure. When the whirlwind demon appeared, an orange-red flame followed closely and turned into a human figure beside the whirlwind demon. About a minute after the 2 demons appeared, the 3rd demon finally arrived. It surged out of the ground like a mole and condensed into a body made of stones and mud. Whirlwind, flames, earth. The demons that were chosen by Mephistos to be part of the welcoming team were indeed impressive. They were different from the other demons they had met before. Kneel, human. Before Rog and Johnny could say anything, the demon made of whirlwind spoke first. Judging from the strength of its energy and its position, this demon that had mastered the power of wind should be the leader of this welcoming team. What surprised Rog even more was that this whirlwind demon actually knew the language of Earth. You want me to kneel? Ah, did Mephistos give you the guts to do that? Or do you think that the 3 of you have the ability to make me kneel? Rog replied with disdain. He didn't care about these 3 demons that had mastered the power of nature at all. Although there weren't many people who had mastered the power of nature, there were quite a few who had died at his hands. For example, the three Storm brothers and Warner Protoss. His Majesty's order is to capture the two of you alive. Even if you're crippled, you can still report back. Just as he finished speaking, this whirlwind demon took the initiative to attack. The whirlwind demon raised its right hand casually, and dozens of wind blades that resembled sickles flew towards Rog and Johnny. Like transparent wind blades, they shot towards Rog and Johnny at a speed faster than bullets, arriving in front of them in an instant. Although they didn't have a physical body, the power of these wind blades wasn't any weaker than real sharp blades. Not to mention that Rog was only a human, even demons with stronger physique and defense would be cut in half after being hit by the wind blades. Perhaps it was because the whirlwind demon hated Rog, or because it felt that Rog was stronger, but most of the wind blades were aimed at him. As for the wind blades that flew towards Johnny, there were only a few of them. Just as these wind blades were about to hit Rog and cut him into pieces, Rog finally moved. Rog pulled out the Northern Chill blade from the ground at an unimaginable speed. He closed his eyes and casually waved the Northern Chill blade in his hand. Clang, 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 clang. The Northern Chill blade's blade clashed with the wind blades, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. The clashing sounds rang out one after another, and the wind blades released by the whirlwind demon were shattered one after another. In less than 3 seconds, Rog had shattered all the wind blades that were attacking him. After easily dispelling the whirlwind demon's attack, he opened his tightly shut eyes and snorted in disdain. "You want to hit me with this little trick? You're so naive." Rog casually dealt with the whirlwind demon's attack, while Johnny seemed to be in a much more difficult situation. Although there weren't many wind blades that were attacking him, to Johnny, who didn't have much battle experience, they were fast and transparent. They were very difficult to deal with. The evil spirit chain wrapped in hellfire blocked one of the wind blades with difficulty, and then the rest of the wind blades hit Johnny's body without any suspense. Johnny didn't block all the wind blades, but the moment the wind blades hit his body, the hellfire on his body suddenly expanded and turned into a hellfire armor, blocking all the wind blades that were attacking him. The sharp wind blades hit the hellfire armor, causing sparks, and then completely dissipated. Although he seemed to be in a difficult situation, Johnny still blocked all the wind blades in the end without any injuries. What do we do now? After using the hellfire armor to block all the wind blades, Johnny turned his head and asked Rog, "Pick one and deal with it yourself. Leave the other two to me." Rog said casually, as if he was discussing how to split the fruits with Johnny. Although the three demons on the opposite side had some skills, that was all they had. Chapter 315. I want the one with the dirt body. After seriously sizing up the three evil demons, Johnny made a decision. Compared to the two demons with the whirlwind body and the flame body, the dirt demon that appeared last looked easier to deal with. At least his body looked sturdier and didn't have the unreal feeling of the whirlwind and flame demons. "No problem, he's yours." Rog didn't have any objections to Johnny's choice. No matter which demon Johnny chose, it was all the same to him. Seeing that Roger and Johnny didn't care about them at all, the three demons were dissatisfied. The whirlwind around the whirlwind demon became even fiercer, while the flames on the flame demon became even more vigorous. As for the dirt demon, no, the earth demon, it became even bigger. They had always been the ones ignoring others. When was it their turn to be ignored? Without any communication, the three demons that controlled different powers of nature attacked Rog and Johnny. They wouldn't attack as Rog and Johnny had planned. The whirlwind demon relied on its superior speed to attack Johnny first, trying to quickly finish off this inexperienced Ghost Rider. Although Ghost Riders had an innate advantage against demons, it depended on which demon they were facing. To the demons of hell, Ghost Rider was like their natural enemy. However, there were many Ghost Riders that had died at the hands of demons. Just as the whirlwind demon turned into a whirlwind and attacked Johnny, Rog, wielding the Northern Cold Blade, arrived in front of Johnny first. "Your opponent is me." Rog raised the Northern Cold Blade in his hand and slashed at the whirlwind like lightning. Using a blade to slash at a whirlwind didn't seem like a wise choice, but it also depended on who was wielding the blade. The pitch-black Northern Cold Saber emitted streaks of silver-white electric snakes. The dull saber emitted a dazzling silver-white light, like a laser slashing through the tornado. The roaring whirlwind immediately split in two, like a river being split by a giant rock, and bypassed the Northern Cold Blade. The whirlwind demon didn't really want to fight with Rog. Compared to Rog, the inexperienced Ghost Rider was clearly a more suitable target. He would deal with the soft persimmon Ghost Rider first before gnawing on the hard bone Rog. The whirlwind demon's choice wasn't wrong, but he looked down on Rog too much. The two smaller whirlwinds had just swept past Rog when they were met with a hellfire wall. Blackie didn't like being covered by hellfire, so Rog had never covered the northern cold blade with hellfire. But this didn't mean that he couldn't use hellfire while using the northern cold blade. Enchanted weapons were only one of the abilities of hellfire. Compared to enchanted weapons, Logue preferred to directly control hellfire in battle. The hellfire wall that soared into the sky completely separated the whirlwind demon from Johnny. Before the whirlwind demon could change direction, the hellfire wall slammed into him like a huge wave. Boom. The hellfire wall slammed into the whirlwind demon like a huge wave, and then slammed into the ground, turning into a raging sea of fire. The moment the hellfire wall slammed into the whirlwind demon, Rog used lightning body blink to leave the spot to avoid being hit by the hellfire wall. Rog, who used lightning body blink, not only disappeared in an instant, he also appeared in front of the flame demon like a ghost. Water release, hard whirlpool water blade. Before the flame demon could react, a whirlpool formed from water appeared in front of him, firmly binding him. The flames on the flame demon's body weren't hellfire. Chakra's water release was enough to suppress it in terms of attributes. Using the water whirlpool to bind the flame demon was just the prelude to water release, hard whirlpool water blade. Under the gaze of the flame demon, Rog's left hand created a water whirlpool, and condensed it into a rapidly spinning water javelin. Not good danger. Just as the flame demon's heart was alerted to the danger, the water javelin's tip hit his chest. The moment the spinning water javelins came into contact with the flame demon's chest, they turned into a huge water spout. Like a roaring water dragon, they sent him flying. From Rog using lightning body blink to the flame demon being sent flying by the hard whirlpool water blade, everything happened in the blink of an eye. The whirlwind demon that was hit by the hellfire wall didn't have time to stop Rog, and the slow earth demon didn't even have time to react. In order to cause enough damage to the flame demon, Rog used all his strength in the hard whirlpool water blade this time. The water tornado that hit the flame demon was more than 10 meters thick, and like a water dragon, it swallowed and sent the flame demon flying. Under the huge impact of the water tornado, the flame demon was sent flying for several hundred meters, and most of the flames on his body were also extinguished by the water tornado. After seriously injuring the flame demon with one move, Rog's figure disappeared again. To deal with enemies like the whirlwind demon and the flame demon, he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, once they reacted and directly used elemental incarnation, the battle would become a protracted battle that Rog hated the most. After being hit by the hellfire wall, the whirlwind demon reformed his body, intending to launch another attack. But at this moment, Rog appeared in front of him again, and condensed a ball of chakra in his left hand. Sealing technique, 4 symbols seal. Rog didn't expect the whirlwind demon to choose to reform his body. If the whirlwind demon had chosen to maintain its whirlwind or tornado form, he might not have been able to finish off the whirlwind demon so quickly. But the whirlwind demon's action of reforming his body gave him an opportunity to kill the whirlwind demon. As soon as the whirlwind demon's body reformed, the 4 symbols seal in Rog's left hand hit his lower abdomen, and a powerful sealing power instantly covered his body. Damn it. The moment the 4 symbols seal took effect, the whirlwind demon sensed danger. But it was already too late. The 4 symbols seal couldn't bind the whirlwind demon forever, and Rog didn't need it to last for too long. As long as the 4 symbols seal could forcefully bind the whirlwind demon for a period of time, it would be enough. Rog saw a finger-sized core in the whirlwind demon's illusory body, and a core that emitted a faint green light. Say hello to Mephisto for me. Rog's voice sounded in the whirlwind demon's ear, and then a beautiful silver arc appeared. The cold northern blade, wrapped in silver lightning snakes, slashed through the air and hit the whirlwind demon's body, and the small core in his body. Bang! When the cold northern blade's blade hit the faint green core, a faint sound like glass shattering rang out. The core shattered and the whirlwind demon died. From the moment Rog blocked the whirlwind demon to the moment the whirlwind demon's body dissipated like a breeze, only a short 2 to 3 seconds had passed. And in these short 2 to 3 seconds, the whirlwind demon was dead, and the flame demon was severely injured. After witnessing Rog's smooth attack from where he stood, Johnny realized just how big the gap between him and Rog was. No, this was no longer a gap, but a moat that couldn't be crossed. Chapter 3:16. This difference made Johnny completely understand the difference between a professional and an amateur. This kind of fighting posture was really cool. Although he was already a middle-aged uncle, Johnny had to admit that Rog's battle stance was indescribably pleasing to the eye. Of course, this might also have something to do with the fact that Rog's entire body was glowing. The blue-white unlimited mode paired with the orange-red hellfire created an inexplicably beautiful image. If Johnny had browsed through China's internet, he would have understood what it meant by red and blue since ancient times. Rog discovered Johnny, who was standing there in a daze, and said unhappily, "Your opponent is over there." He had already finished off the whirlwind demon and sent the fire demon flying hundreds of meters away. The only one still standing in front of them was that earth demon, who didn't look very smart. When the earth devil, which was made of mud and stone, saw Rog kill the whirlwind devil and severely injure the fire devil, it couldn't help but think of running away. Although the earth demon looked simple and honest, he was actually very quick-witted. If he wasn't quick-witted enough, he wouldn't have been able to become one of the few demons who had mastered the power of nature. He wouldn't have been chosen by Mephisto to become his subordinate. Although in name, all the demons in hell were the subordinates of the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. But there weren't many demons who could truly become Mephisto's subordinates. The fact that the earth demon could stand out from so many demons was enough to prove his strength and quick-wittedness. As soon as Rog finished speaking, the earth demon took action before Johnny could react. The earth demon's body began to dissipate rapidly, and his entire body shrunk rapidly as if it was collapsing. Although the earth demon didn't know how Rog had killed the whirlwind demon instantly, he keenly discovered an important point after seeing Rog shatter the whirlwind demon's core with one slash. Energy body. Before Rog killed the whirlwind demon instantly, he forcefully suppressed the whirlwind demon's energy transformation, and seized the opportunity to shatter the core in its physical state. After understanding this, the earth demon naturally wouldn't continue to let himself remain in his physical state. The materialization of the body meant that the core was also materialized, which meant that there was a risk of it being destroyed. The earth demon's judgment wasn't wrong. His eyes were sharp and his actions were resolute. However, he had placed most of his attention on Rog and neglected his true opponent, Johnny the Ghost Rider. Just as earth demon's body began to dissipate, Johnny's evil spirit chain appeared in front of him and bound him tightly as if it had a life of its own. Damn it. The moment he was bound by the evil spirit chain, Earth Demon cursed and tried to break free from the evil spirit chain. The Earth Devil wasn't afraid of the evil spirit chain's attack, even if the hellfire wrapped around the evil spirit chain would burn his body. What he was truly troubled by was the binding of the evil spirit chains, which had interrupted the process of transforming his body into energy. Although the shackles of evil spirits did not have any sealing power, and could only rely on binding the opponent's movements, the hellfire on the shackles of evil spirits was a natural counter to demons. Whether it was a physical demon or a nature demon without a body, they were all powerless in front of the hellfire. If a simple body of energy could avoid the damage of the hellfire, then the hellfire wouldn't be one of the most feared powers of demons. With the process of transforming his body into energy interrupted, Earth Demon could only choose the most violent method to break free of the evil spirit chain. Earth Demon's body of earth had already shrunk to the size of a normal person, but in order to obtain more power, he began to enlarge his body. The larger his body, the more power he had, and the more likely it was for him to break free. Earth Demon's choice wasn't wrong, and he was different from the Whirlwind Demon and the Flame Demon who couldn't borrow the power of nature. With his feet on the ground, he could obtain endless support. With Earth Demon as the center, the earth around him seemed to come alive, and soil and stones continuously surged into his body. At this moment, Earth Demon was like a magnet, attracting all the soil and stones around him to strengthen his body. In just a few seconds, Earth Demon had become the legendary Earth Giant, his body reaching an astonishing height of more than 10 meters. The increase in size brought about a visible change in strength. The evil spirit chain that Earth Demon had been helpless against had now become a frail existence that he could easily break free from. The Earth Giant like Earth Demon let out a furious roar and stretched out its arms. The evil spirit chain that was wrapped around its body broke apart and fell to the ground. After breaking free of the evil spirit chain, the enlarged Earth Demon didn't immediately attack Johnny. Instead, he turned to look at Rog. Or rather, he glanced at the northern cold blade in his hand. Earth Demon wouldn't let the tragedy of the Whirlwind Demon repeat itself. After confirming that the northern cold blade wasn't long enough to pierce through his body and destroy his core, Earth Demon turned his gaze back to Ghost Rider Johnny. This was the first time Johnny had seen the evil spirit chain break. Caught off guard, Earth Demon's giant fist, which was about the same size as Johnny's body, hit him hard and sent him crashing to the ground. Boom. The earth shattered as Johnny was knocked to the ground, and the hellfire on his body couldn't help but dim. Rog was only 10 meters away from Johnny, but he had no intention of helping him. In Ghost Rider form, it was impossible to kill Johnny with physical means. Rog had already tested this point. As long as the hellfire on Johnny's body was still there, he could reassemble himself even if he was smashed to pieces. And while Johnny was being beaten up, Rog's other opponent, the fire demon, finally returned to him. After taking a hit from the hard whirlpool water blade, the fire demon was in an extremely sorry state. His body of flames was only 2 meters tall to begin with, and was only slightly taller than an ordinary person. After being hit by the hard whirlpool water blade, his body of flames had shrunk to about 1.23 meters. Rather than calling the fire demon a demon, it was better to call him a dwarf with a body of flames. Human, you're good, very good. I'll burn your body and soul for 10,000 years. I'll let you know what a painful fiery hell is. Although Rog had severely injured him in one move, the fire demon didn't feel any fear. Instead, he was enraged by Rog's attack. Burn me for 10,000 years? Are you sure you can live that long? Although demons have long lifespans, you don't look like someone who can live for 10,000 years. That's because your luck isn't that good. As soon as he finished speaking, Rog opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of water at the fire demon. Water release, wave breaker. Chapter 317. A thin, ultra-high-pressure water column sprayed out of Rog's mouth as fast as lightning, instantly arriving in front of the shrunken flame demon and slicing his head open like a sharp blade. Because he didn't know where the core of the flame demon was located in his body, Rog attacked the most common part, the head. If it hit the core, then it would be a win. If the core wasn't in the head, then it didn't matter. The Inferno demon didn't expect Rog to attack so quickly and without hesitation. The water ripple cut open the flame demon's head without any suspense, and then nothing changed. Although the flame demon seemed to be a little more impulsive than the earth demon and was more prone to getting carried away, this didn't mean that he would really put the vital core in his head. Because the core wasn't hit, the flame demon's cracked head quickly recovered. But this time he didn't spout nonsense at Rog. The first time was the hard whirlpool water blade and the second time was the water ripple. After being hit twice in a row, even if the flame demon was really impulsive and easily angered, he calmed down at this time. And he also found that the whirlwind demon was gone. Of course, the leader of the whirlwind demon wouldn't disappear for no reason. Since he couldn't see him now, it meant that the whirlwind demon was probably dead. After discovering this, the flame demon couldn't help but feel nervous. In terms of strength, the whirlwind demon was the strongest of the three of them. But the strongest whirlwind demon was the first to die, which scared the flame demon a little. From the time he was sent flying to the time he came back, only 4 or 5 seconds had passed at most. In other words, the human in front of him had killed the whirlwind demon in just 4 or 5 seconds. Thinking of this, the flame demon finally understood why Mephisto said to arrange a welcoming team. To put it nicely, it was a welcoming team, but to put it bluntly, it was cannon fodder to test the strength of the other party. Where did this human come from? Is he the disciple of the Ancient One? What is he doing in hell, traveling? The flame demon couldn't figure out Rog's purpose. In his opinion, as a human, Rog had no reason to appear in hell at all. Although Rog was very strong compared to the Lord of Hell Mephisto, there was still a big gap. Thoughts flew in the flame demon's mind. Although he didn't know what Rog's purpose was, he knew that if he ran away without doing anything, the Lord of Hell Mephisto would definitely not let him off easily. After thinking of Mephisto, the flame demon's attack, the flame demon took the initiative to attack. The flame demon's body, Mephisto Mephisto, Mephisto Mephisto, Mephisto Mephisto Mephisto. The flame Mephisto Mephistos, one after another. Of course, Mephisto, be precise. Mephisto Mephisto, Ismay. Instantly, of meme. S's. However, the flame demon was wrong about one thing, and that was that Rog did not even consider dodging. Rog raised the northern cold saber in his hand and decisively slashed at the incoming fireball. Unlike the whirlwind demon's wind blade, the flame demon's fireball could still cause damage even if it didn't hit its target. Artist Patrick Starr. The northern cold blade in Rog's hand hit a fireball without any suspense. Then an orange-red flame soared into the sky. The fist-sized fireball exploded with a power far beyond imagination, and the exploding flames directly engulfed Rog's figure. Not only that, but after the first fireball exploded, the following fireballs seemed to have caused a chain reaction as they exploded one after another. Boom 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 boom, explosions rang out one after another. The orange-red flames continued to explode like a carnival, wantonly venting their own energy. Not only was the flame demon's attack shocking, but it was also quite powerful. Don't be fooled by the small size of the fireballs, the concentrated flame energy inside was not little at all. With this move, the flame demon defeated many demons who were stronger than him, allowing him to stand out among the demons and become Mephisto's acknowledged subordinate. The exploding flames not only engulfed Rog's figure, but also attracted the attention of Johnny and Earth Demon. Johnny never expected that the flame demon, who had been severely injured by Rog with one move, could actually turn the tables and suppress Rog to this extent. Looking at those flames that seemed to never be extinguished, Johnny could not help but worry for Rog. Rog was indeed very strong, but he was only a human after all. He did not have the ability to regenerate like him. However, Johnny soon realized that he was overthinking things. When the flames of the explosion gradually dissipated, a light blue figure that was several meters tall appeared in their line of sight. This light blue figure only had the upper body, and its appearance was not quite human. Susanoo. The moment the fireball exploded, Rog used Susanoo to completely protect himself. He had already guessed that the fireball would explode, so he was prepared early on. When the orange-red flames completely dissipated, the light blue Susanoo finally revealed its full appearance. The flame demon did not know what Susanoo was, but when he saw that Rog was unscathed in Susanoo, he sensed that something was wrong. With Rog's combat skills, he would never do anything meaningless in battle. Moreover, the flame demon instinctively felt that the Susanoo covering Rog was definitely not a simple defensive move. The flame demon's intuition was very accurate. Rog did not use Susanoo purely for defense, but to directly end the flame demon's life. The whirlwind demon's core was only the size of a finger, so the flame demon's core was probably not that big. Rog was not interested in confirming the location of the flame demon's core bit by bit. He intended to use a simpler method to solve this problem. Under the gaze of the flame demon and the others, a tens of meters long chakra-long sword instantly appeared. This chakra-long sword was even bigger than Susanoo. Susanoo holding the chakra-long sword was like a 2 or 3 years old child holding a 2-meter-long giant sword. Goodbye. Rog's voice had just sounded when the tens of meters long chakra-long sword slashed towards the flame demon's head. At the moment when the chakra-long sword appeared, the flame demon already had the idea of retreating, but the Susanoo's speed was faster than he imagined. The flame demon had not had time to leave when the light blue chakra-long sword had already arrived in front of him. One sword kill. Chapter 318. Since he couldn't determine the location of the core, he would just destroy the entire body. The flame demon, who had shrunk to 1.2 meters in size, didn't even have a chance to resist before he was completely killed by the chakra. Not even a small flame was left behind as he dissipated into the air. Wasn't this turn of events a little too fast? The earth demon had just been rejoicing over the fact that the flame demon had the upper hand and suppressed the stronger Rog. But in the blink of an eye, the flame demon had died under the Susanoo's chakra. Less than a minute had passed since the start of the battle. But in less than a minute, the whirlwind demon and the flame demon had died one after another without leaving a single mark on Rog. I can't stay here any longer. I definitely can't stay here any longer. The earth demon didn't think that he had the ability to fight two people at once. Escape no matter what, he had to escape. Although the punishment from the Lord of Hell Mephisto was terrifying, that was something he had to consider after he survived. And compared to Mephisto's punishment, the earth demon was even more unwilling to die here for no reason. He had grown from the most ordinary demon step by step, from an existence that anyone could bully and humiliate to a demon that controlled the power of the earth. The earth demon, who had been born ordinary, cherished his life and status more than the whirlwind demon and the flame demon. I haven't become a demon lord yet. I haven't become a famous great demon. I definitely can't die here. The immense pressure brought about by death made the earth demon erupt with even more power. The earth demon clenched his fists and smashed Ghost Rider Johnny's body with a heavy hammer, shattering Johnny's bones into pieces that flew in all directions. This wasn't the first time the earth demon had beaten Johnny to a pulp, but it was the same every time. Johnny, who had been reduced to pieces of broken bones, would recover with the help of the hellfire. Unlike the previous few times, the earth demon didn't give Johnny a chance to reconstruct his body this time. After beating Johnny into a pile of broken bones, the earth demon took the opportunity to place his hands on the ground. The solid ground gradually softened, and within a few seconds the thick ground became as soft as liquid. The rocks and broken bones on the ground quickly sank as if they had fallen into water. When there was not a single bone in sight, the earth demon retracted its hands and allowed the ground to return to its original state. After doing all this, the earth demon did not say another word and ran away. Not only that, but the earth demon's 10-meter-tall body was also shrinking as he ran. The materialized body was too big and it would take more time to elementalize. In order to leave this place as soon as possible, and mainly to ensure the success rate of escape, the earth demon could only choose to shrink its body first and then elementalize. Regarding earth demon's escape, Rog didn't make a move to stop it, but silently dispelled Susanoo. The earth demon was Johnny's opponent, so whether the earth demon ran away or did something else, it was Johnny's business. Moreover, Rog didn't care if the earth demon could successfully escape. It would be best if Johnny could leave the earth demon behind. If he couldn't, it could only mean that Johnny was still too weak. The earth demon knew that he couldn't stop Johnny's recovery, but that didn't mean that he would helplessly watch Johnny return to his original state. Since he couldn't stop it, then he had to prolong the recovery time as much as possible. Thus, the earth demon made the decision to bury Johnny's bones deep in the ground. The earth demon kept running away. His body was getting smaller and smaller. According to his current shrinking speed, it wouldn't be long before he could shrink his body to the size of an ordinary person, and then elementalize his body in one go. As long as he could elementalize successfully, he could leave this place alive. The earth demon was very clear about this point, and the power of the earth he grasped was very suitable for escaping at this time. In terms of speed, after elementalization he really couldn't compare with the whirlwind demon and the flame demon. However, he had an advantage that the whirlwind demon and the flame demon didn't have. As long as he could elementalize his body, he could let himself go deep into the ground, and the earth would help him block the pursuers, and he could use the earth to hide his tracks. Hold on for a few more seconds, just a few more seconds. The earth demon felt that he had already touched the hope of successfully escaping. In just a few more seconds he would be able to completely escape the pressure of death brought about by Rog. But just as the earth demon thought that he was about to succeed, evil spirit chains surged out of the ground and wrapped around his limbs and body like pythons, once again interrupting his elementalization process. How was this possible? Ghost Rider was clearly still buried in the ground. How could he do it? The earth demon couldn't understand why these evil spirit chains had suddenly surged out of the ground, and he couldn't understand how Johnny had done it. Although he didn't look back, he was very sure that Ghost Rider was still buried in the ground and hadn't come out of the earth prison he had created. The earth demon's senses weren't wrong. Johnny was indeed still buried in the ground. But that didn't mean that Johnny couldn't attack him. Johnny wasn't the only one buried by the earth demon. The evil spirit shackles were also broken into pieces. Although Johnny couldn't travel through the ground, the evil spirit chains could. And thanks to the earth demon, Johnny could use even more of the evil spirit chains than before. Every section of the evil spirit chains had been lengthened by the hellfire, to the point where Johnny could use them. Although this didn't make sense, it was very hellish. Using these evil spirit chains, Johnny once again bound the earth demon and regained the initiative in the battle. After his previous experience, Johnny didn't give the earth demon a chance to transform into his huge body again. The evil spirit chains wrapped around the earth demon endlessly. In the blink of an eye, the human-sized earth demon was bound into a ball by the evil spirit chains, a solid ball of chains burning with hellfire. Only after all this was done did a bone hand wrapped in hellfire emerge from the ground, followed by a burning skull. Johnny, who had already recovered his body, crawled out of the ground. In his right hand were 5 or 6 evil spirit chains. I didn't lose this time. Johnny didn't look at the ball of chains in the distance, but spoke to Rog very seriously. Yes, you didn't lose. After hearing Rog's reply, Johnny suddenly exerted force in his hand, and the ball of chains in the distance exploded like a bomb. The broken evil spirit chains danced in the air, and the earth demon was annihilated. Although it was a little different from what he had imagined, Johnny still finished off the earth demon alone in the end, leaving a deep mark on his battle career. Chapter 319. Well done. Johnny's move to deal with the earth demon was indeed not bad. He was getting better and better at using the evil spirit chain. Furthermore, Johnny finally had the aura a qualified warrior should have. If Johnny had let the earth demon leave just like that, Rog wouldn't have said anything, but he would still be a little disappointed. However, Johnny still ended up with a pretty good result, and dealt with the earth demon in a simple and crude manner. Where are we going next? Johnny asked after reforming the broken evil spirit chain and wrapping it around his body. Anything is fine. No matter what we do, we'll meet Mephisto in the end. Rog didn't know where Mephisto was, nor did he have any interest in using Chakra's sensing ability to search for Mephisto. Then, will we encounter other demons later on? I seem to like the feeling of fighting demons. Johnny was silent for a few seconds before he said excitedly. As a ghost rider, killing demons with his own hands gave him an inexplicable sense of joy, as if he was born to do so. I don't know. It depends on Mephisto's arrangements. If he feels the need to continue testing us, then we'll continue to meet the demons he sends out. If he doesn't feel the need, then we'll meet him in person. Rog replied calmly. He wouldn't be surprised no matter what arrangements Mephisto made. When Johnny got back on his ghost bike and was about to leave, Rog suddenly stopped him. Since we have time now, let me tell you something. This was the first time Johnny had seen such a serious expression on Rog's face. Perhaps in your eyes, I'm very strong and can easily deal with those demons. But Mephisto isn't an ordinary demon. He's the Lord of Hell, the strongest in Hell. I can have the advantage against other demons, but against Mephisto, I won't have any advantage at all. So, before Mephisto appears, I think it's necessary to remind you that Mephisto is very powerful, very powerful. Even if we join forces, our chances of defeating him are less than 10% or even lower. If he was alone at this time, Rog would not have any hesitation. Even if he couldn't defeat Mephisto, he had a way to successfully escape from Mephisto. However, he wasn't alone now. He still had to consider Johnny's safety. Are you saying that we should leave Hell now? Johnny knew that Mephisto was very strong, but he had no idea how strong Mephisto was. He had only seen Mephisto's once when they signed the contract. He knew that Mephisto's was a Lord of Hell and a very powerful demon. That was all. After seeing Rog's serious expression, Johnny realized that he had never understood Mephisto's. It's up to you whether you want to leave now. After all, you're the only one who has the ability to travel through Hell. I just want you to know how dangerous it is to face Mephisto's. If anything goes wrong, you and I will stay in Hell forever. Whether it's necessary to gamble with your life to fight for that slim chance of freedom is something you have to seriously consider. Rog wanted Johnny to know how dangerous the journey ahead would be. After all, Johnny wasn't him and didn't know how terrifying Mephisto was. According to his estimation, Mephisto in Hell would be at least at the Heavenly Father level, which was the Heavenly Father level where Odin and Ancient One were. Although the Heavenly Father level was only one level higher than the Earth God level. This level was the difference between heaven and earth, just like the difference in mass between the Earth and the Sun. If Rog remembered correctly, a Thanos without an Infinity Stone was the so-called Heavenly Father level. And such a Thanos was already a super overlord that was famous throughout the universe. Apart from those super big shots who basically didn't show their faces or make a move, Thanos was one of the ceiling of individual combat power in the universe. If a Heavenly Father level Thanos was already so terrifying, there was no need to mention those Heavenly Father level existences. What's more, Rog and Johnny were still in Hell controlled by Mephisto, fighting against a Heavenly Father level existence, and in his domain at that, a narrow escape was already considered the focus of the goddess of luck. Is Mephisto really that strong? He can't even appear on Earth often? Johnny wasn't doubting Rog, he just found it hard to imagine that the old demon with gray hair was really that strong. That's because there's an existence as powerful as him silently guarding Earth, so all the demons including Mephisto, can't easily appear on Earth. Rog didn't explain to Johnny about the Sorcerer Supreme because it had nothing to do with him for the time being, and if nothing unexpected happened, it shouldn't have anything to do with him in the future. What about your opinion? Do you want to leave? Mephisto is so powerful, and the reward I paid was just to bring you to Hell. Would you want to give up the commission? Johnny didn't answer Rog's question directly, but instead asked Rog, give up the commission? Ever since I became a ninja, I've never given up on a commission. As a ninja with good professional ethics, I just don't want my employer to suddenly die. You've already paid me, so no matter what, I'll carry out the commission. You only need to consider your own safety now. Is there a need to use your life as a bet for a slim chance? Although the commission said that he had to work with Johnny to fight against the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, it wasn't impossible if he was alone. At most, the system would just deem the commission as a failure. Furthermore, it wasn't like there weren't any tricks to work together against this request. For example, he could bring Johnny's evil spirit chain to fight against Mephisto, and to a certain extent, work together against him. Since you're not leaving, I'm not leaving either. You dare to fight against Mephisto as a human, so as a Ghost Rider, I naturally won't choose to run away. Isn't it just a possibility of dying in battle? Ever since I became a Ghost Rider that's neither human nor ghost, I've never cared about death. Death might just be a form of release for me. After serious consideration, Johnny finally gave an answer, and decided to face Mephisto with Rog. Wasn't it just fighting against the Lord of Hell? Even if it was fighting against God now, Johnny wouldn't be afraid. Just as Johnny finished speaking, an incomparably authoritative voice came from the sky, exploding like thunder. No wonder you're the knight that I've chosen. I like your attitude. The owner of this voice was none other than the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, the only ruler of Hell. Don't underestimate a ninja's explosive power. Rog had already proven this with countless facts. Just as Rog and Johnny were prepared to fight with all their might, a slightly thin figure appeared in the distance and slowly walked toward them. He was dressed in a classic black suit, had meticulously groomed white hair, and held a black cane with a silver skull inlaid in his hand. The Lord of Hell, Mephistopheles, appeared in front of Rog and Johnny like an old British noble. Perhaps it was because Mephisto's was considerate of Rog and Roland's perception, or perhaps it was because Mephisto's preferred the human form, but at this moment, Mephisto's did not reveal his true demon form. Instead, he appeared in front of them in his human form. I really didn't expect you to come to hell of your own accord. Good, very good. Mephistopheles' gaze lingered on Rog, who was surrounded by lightning and hellfire, for a few seconds before finally landing on Johnny, the Ghost Rider. I also didn't expect that we would meet again in hell. Facing Mephistopheles, who had changed his fate, Johnny didn't give any orders and replied calmly. Tell me, my knight, what do you want? As he spoke, Mephistopheles stretched out his right hand toward Johnny, as if a king responding to his general. I want your life. At this moment, Mephistopheles was only about 10 meters away from them. To ordinary people, this distance might not be within the attack range. But to Johnny and the other two, this distance was no different from facing each other. As soon as he said that, the ghost chain in Johnny's hand appeared in front of Mephistopheles and pointed straight at his head. Although Mephistopheles had displayed astonishing power, this didn't affect Johnny's intention to leave him with some memories. The ghost chain's attack speed was very fast, even faster than the speed of ordinary bullets. But in front of the Lord of Hell Mephistopheles, Johnny's attack was still too crude. It was so crude that he didn't even have the mood to raise his hand. The ghost chain wrapped in hellfire appeared in front of Mephistopheles at lightning speed. Then, as if fixed in place, it stopped in midair in front of him. Interesting. Although Rog didn't know what method Mephistopheles used to stop the ghost chain, he had to admit that Mephistopheles' move was very beautiful. Or rather, it was very cool. Lightning body blink. Although he was amazed, Rog didn't stop moving at all. He disappeared in an instant. Lightning body, thousand birds blade. Rog appeared behind Mephistopheles as if he had teleported. The northern cold blade in his hand transformed into a blade of lightning, and slashed at Mephistopheles' neck. Just like the ghost chain, when the northern cold blade came to Mephistopheles' side, it was forcibly fixed in place by an inexplicable force. It was as if space had frozen, completely fixing the northern cold blade in midair. The moment the northern cold blade was fixed, Rog decisively let go of his right hand that was holding the blade and condensed a Rasengan. At the same time, he pulled out a flying Thor kunai from his waist with his left hand. The Rasengan in his right hand and the flying Thor kunai in his left. Not only did Rog not give up on attacking, but he also directly launched a second wave of attacks. As for the northern cold blade, which was fixed in midair, it was temporarily out of the battle sequence. The Rasengan and the flying Thor kunai attacked Mephistopheles at the same time. As long as one attack could hit Mephistopheles, Rog would be able to pull the battle into the flying Thor that he was best at. Mephistopheles had never fought Rog before, and didn't know what kind of ability Rog had mastered. But as the Lord of Hell, as the most powerful existence in Hell, he wasn't the kind of incompetent lord who would forget how to fight once he was in a high position. When the flying Thor kunai made of metal came near Mephistopheles, it was unsurprisingly fixed in place, just like the northern cold blade's ghost chain. The Rasengan in his right hand easily broke through the invisible defense around Mephistopheles and touched Mephistopheles' suit. Chapter 321. Did I succeed? When the Rasengan touched the suit on Mephisto's body, a trace of doubt flashed through Rog's heart. Although he had never fought with Mephisto before, he was 100% sure that Mephisto, who had the strength of a heavenly father, would never perform so poorly. Mephisto must still have a backup plan. Although the Rasengan was not a weapon like the flying Thor kunai or the northern Liang blade, if Mephisto wanted to stop it, he would definitely be able to. As he expected, when the spinning Rasengan touched the suit on Mephisto's body, an incomparably powerful energy burst out of Mephisto's body. This energy had no attributes, it was just pure energy to the extreme. Boom. In just an instant, the Rasengan in Rog's hand shattered, and the chakra, which had lost control, directly disintegrated and dissipated, leaving no trace behind. Not only that, but the terrifying power of the explosion also directly descended on Rog's body, making him unable to even use the flying thunder god and lightning body blink, and he was completely blown away. Although the energy that burst out of Mephisto's body was terrifying, it was extremely well controlled. Except for Rog himself, the Northern Liang Blade, the Flying Thor Kunai, and the Evil Spirit Chain, which were frozen in the air, were not affected at all, and still maintained their frozen state. Rog, who was blown away, flew a full 100 meters before he finally dissipated the impact of the explosion, and relied on the superlight rock technique to stabilize his body and float in the air. Mephisto, the Lord of Hell, is really strong. Rog raised his right hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his 3 Tomo Sharingan also transformed into Mangekyo Sharingan. The dynamic vision of the 3 Tomo Sharingan was already very terrifying, but it was completely unable to follow Mephisto's movements. Before Mephisto's energy burst out, he didn't even catch a trace of it. The Flying Thor Kunai was still near Mephisto, which meant that he still had a chance to launch a surprise attack. However, at this time Rog did not immediately launch a counterattack. Instead, he slowly landed on the ground. Mephisto stood in place with his cane, looking calm and composed as if he didn't care about Rog and Johnny's attacks at all. Rog's attack speed was indeed very fast, and his combat reaction was top-notch. However, in front of the Lord of Hell Mephisto's, his attacks were no different from Johnny's simple and crude chain attacks. The only difference was that his attacks were more flashy. How dare you come to hell with such strength? Human, tell me who gave you the courage. Or is it your ignorance that's driving you? Mephisto turned to look at Rog and spoke in a calm tone. Although Mephisto acted like an old nobleman, Rog could see the undisguised contempt and disgust on his face. Perhaps Tuza see Mephisto of thinks who give me have a give me the of it, I don't need anyone to give me courage. As he spoke, Rog summoned the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword that he hadn't used in a while, and pulled out the Calamity pistol at his waist with his left hand. Now I'll show you where my courage comes from. Rog raised the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword in his right hand and pointed it straight at Mephisto. However, before he could make a move, Johnny attacked first. After confirming that he couldn't pull back the Evil Spirit Chain, Johnny decisively gave up on it and took out the double-barreled shotgun that he had never had the chance to use. Hellfire Demonization, Evil Spirit Double-Barreled Shotgun. Bang bang. As soon as the double-barreled shotgun was demonized, Johnny pulled the trigger, and 2 demonized Evil Spirit bullets shot at Mephisto. Johnny's shooting made Mephisto frown in dissatisfaction. How could a Ghost Rider use a gun? This was damaging the tradition and reputation of a Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider Johnny was the work that Mephisto was most satisfied with, and also the work that he had high hopes for. In the long history of the past, Mephisto had created many Ghost Riders, but there had never been a Ghost Rider that could move him as much as Johnny. The Evil Spirit bullets instantly arrived in front of Mephisto and pierced through the afterimage left behind by Mephisto. As soon as the Evil Spirit bullets passed through the illusion left behind by Mephisto, Johnny's neck was grabbed by Mephisto and he was lifted up. The blazing hellfire covered Mephisto's left hand, but it didn't cause any damage to Mephisto. Not only that, but the black smoke that surged out of Mephisto's left hand crazily devoured the hellfire on Johnny's body like locusts. It gnawed at Johnny's evil spirit body, causing him to scream like a beast. So fast. Mephisto didn't use any special abilities. He only used his astonishing speed to dodge the evil spirit bullets and instantly appeared in front of Johnny. After switching from the 3 Tomo Sharingan to the Mangekyo Sharingan, Rog finally captured Mephisto's movements. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the hellfire on Johnny's body dimmed to the point that it looked like it would extinguish at any moment. It was as if he had lost all his strength. With no time to think, Rog summoned his 3 wood clones while his true body used the Flying Thunder God to rush over. Although Rog didn't know what the black smoke that surged out of Mephisto's body was, he could tell from Johnny's current state that this black smoke was very effective against hellfire. Hellfire was shockingly harmful to ordinary demons, but it was nothing to the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. As long as he wanted to, he could even take back the hellfire on Johnny's body. Using the flying Thor, Rog once again arrived near Mephisto and fired all 6 bullets from the Calamity pistol. Rhyton, Spiral Electromagnetic Gun, Water Release. Water Dragon Bullet, Water Release. Water Ripple, Water Release. Water Shockwave, Futon, Vacuum Blade, Odama Rasengan. The bullets in the Calamity pistol were originally prepared for those demons, but he didn't expect to use them all on Mephisto. 6 completely different ninjutsu attacks arrived in front of Mephisto almost at the same time. Rog didn't expect these ninjutsu to hit Mephisto, and Mephisto wouldn't give him such a chance. Judging from Mephisto's current posture, he was a person who cared very much about his image. He definitely wouldn't make a mess of himself because of a battle. Therefore, when he fired the ninjutsu bullets, Rog had already prepared a backup plan. Before these 6 ninjutsu attacks hit Mephisto, Rog used his chakra to destroy the stability of the ninjutsu. Artist Patrick Starr. Rog couldn't detonate himself like Deidara, but he could detonate all the chakra in his ninjutsu and create a powerful but completely uncontrollable chakra explosion. The thunder, water, and wind attributes of chakra fused and rejected each other uncontrollably, and then art was born. Boom. Chapter 322. The 3 different types of chakra were fused together in an inexplicable way, creating a terrifying explosion that even Rog didn't know how powerful it was. Before the explosion even started, Rog prepared a defensive barrier for himself. Would release. Wooden spindle wall. A curved circular wall was formed in front of him, completely enveloping him. The chaotic energy storm crazily released its own energy, and the terrifying shockwave destroyed everything around it, regardless of whether it was friend or foe, and the lightning and storm that filled the sky created a doomsday scene. In addition to the energy storm formed by the different types of chakra, this sudden energy storm also inexplicably caused a chain reaction, which attracted the natural energy of hell, further increasing the power of the explosion. The black and purple color caused by the explosion became the only color in the sky, and the earth shook violently, and the terrifying energy storm destroyed everything like a supernova. The thickened wooden spindle wall created by Rog only lasted for a short 2 or 3 seconds before it was completely broken. Even if he continuously used chakra to strengthen it, it didn't change the outcome of the wooden spindle wall being destroyed. Susanoo. The light blue Susanoo instantly took shape and surrounded him in layers. In order to ensure that Susanoo has enough defensive power, he mobilized almost all the chakra in his body, and didn't spare any energy to support the existence of Susanoo. Although the energy storm in front of him was his plan, but as the planner he didn't expect that the fusion of different types of chakra would produce such a terrifying power. What he didn't expect was that the extreme nature energy in hell would also participate in the energy storm's revelry. If he had known that there would be such a completely uncontrollable chain reaction, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to detonate his ninjutsu. The current situation was completely beyond his expectations, and it also completely disrupted his next step. According to his plan, he should have saved Johnny after the explosion while Mephistopheles was distracted. But in this situation, let alone saving Johnny, he wasn't even sure if he could protect himself. If this energy storm didn't end, he would have to use his trump card in advance. Not only did Rog not expect that the energy storm he created would cause such a huge chain reaction, but Mephistopheles also didn't expect it either. As the Lord of Hell, Mephistopheles knew a lot more about hell than Rog did. So he knew more about the current situation than Rog did. To put it simply, the energy storm created by Rog was like throwing a grenade into an arsenal full of high explosives. The grenade wasn't very powerful, but it detonated the explosives in the arsenal, and as time passed, more and more explosives were detonated. Mephistopheles didn't matter, he couldn't ignore the fact that the arsenal's explosion would directly blow up his base. This human, he really wasn't an ordinary human. More and more natural energy was being attracted by the energy storm. Mephistos even felt that all the natural energy in hell was showing signs of being awakened. If this energy storm was allowed, if was mice Mephistopheles, this was Mephistopheles. In order to maintain the order and safety of hell, Mephistopheles had no choice but to deal with this huge problem brought about by Rog. Mephistopheles casually swung his left hand, and Johnny, who had been grabbed by the neck, was flung out. He was instantly swallowed by the energy storm. Mephistopheles then stuck the black cane in his hand firmly into the ground, opened his arms, and released the energy in his body. There was originally a faint layer of energy barrier around Mephistopheles, protecting his safety and maintaining his dignity. But now he had no choice but to give up this energy barrier that could allow him to maintain his dignity. He even had to reveal his demon true form. Small curved horns that resembled demon horns appeared on his face, and the nails on his hands began to grow longer and sharper. His skin also turned dark purple. Apart from that, his eyes shone with an orange-red light like hellfire. Without the protection of the energy barrier, cracks appeared on the classic black suit he was wearing, and his meticulous white hair had completely disappeared. The change in his appearance was just an insignificant prelude. What was truly shocking was the astonishing energy emitted from his body. Under the interference of the energy storm, Rog's chakra senses were severely disrupted. Right now, he couldn't even sense Johnny's existence or the flying thunder god's Kunishang. But it was in this situation where his senses were suppressed to the extreme that he felt a powerful force like a black hole. Profound, powerful, strange, unparalleled. Rog could not accurately describe how powerful this force was. The only thing he could be sure of was that this force could easily destroy planets and destroy the heavens and earth. Was this the true strength of a heavenly father? What a despair-inducing difference. Only now did Rog finally understand why the name of the father of gods, Odin, could spread throughout the entire universe, and why the Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One, alone could prevent Earth from being invaded by other dimensions. Hell Lord Mephistopheles attacked with all his might, and the agitated natural energy was quickly calmed down. Without the natural energy in hell, the apocalyptic energy storm gradually weakened and finally disappeared completely. When everything returned to normal, the scene in front of Rog was completely different from before. What appeared in front of him now was a terrifying circular crater with a diameter of tens of kilometers. He and Mephistopheles were in the center of this circular crater. Although he could not see the exact height of the wall in the distance, it was extremely flat. Apart from him and Mephistopheles, who were still standing in place, everything else had flown off to who knows where, including Ghost Rider Johnny. Even the 3 wood clones that he had planned to leave behind as a backup had been completely destroyed by the energy storm. Mephistopheles did not give Rog a chance to see his demon true body. With his back facing Rog, he returned to his previous human appearance, then turned around and looked at the human who had almost caused a disaster that affected the entire hell. "Human, what's your name?" At this moment, Mephistopheles no longer had the contempt and disgust on his face. Instead, it was solemn and serious. "My name is Rog and I'm a ninja." In addition to his name, Rog also said his profession. "Ninja? Interesting." Mephistopheles nodded with a smile, then pulled out his cane from the ground and walked 5 or 6 meters in front of Rog. He said solemnly, "Become my ninja, and I'll make you the strongest ghost ninja in the entire universe." Chapter 323. Evil Spirit Ninja? And the strongest evil spirit ninja in the universe? Rog was stunned for a moment, unable to keep up with Mephisto's train of thought. "Yes, as long as you submit to me, I can make you the strongest evil spirit ninja in the universe. After I die, you can even take over my position and become the new Lord of Hell." At this moment, Mephisto was acting like an amiable old man who had billions in assets but no suitable heir, openly tempting Rog. "Sorry, I'm quite satisfied with my current appearance. I have no intention of changing into an evil spirit for the time being." Rog tactfully rejected Mephisto's suggestion. If it wasn't for the huge difference in strength, he wouldn't even have bothered with Mephisto. The strongest evil spirit ninja in the entire universe. This title sounded very powerful, but in reality it was meaningless. Not to mention that there was no ninja in the universe who could use ninjutsu like him. Just the fact that he was the strongest in the universe wasn't very reliable. Even Mephisto himself wasn't the strongest in the universe, let alone the evil spirits he created. Be it Ghost Rider or Evil Spirit Ninja, they were just Mephisto's subordinates. They were naturally inferior to Mephisto himself. More importantly, the appearance of a skeleton after transforming into an evil spirit didn't match his aesthetic at all. Rog remembered that not long ago, several well-known media outlets in America had teamed up to do a survey on the most desirable superheroes to marry. If he remembered correctly, he was ranked first on this list. Furthermore, he had surpassed Captain America, who was ranked second, and Tawny, who was ranked third, with an absolute advantage. Right, it was worth mentioning that Hulk was ranked fourth on the list, even above Thor and Thor. Yes, the one who was selected was Hulk, not Dr. Bruce Banner. As for the reason for being selected, Rog wasn't very sure for the time being. "You don't like the image of an evil spirit? I didn't expect that you, who have such great power, would still care about such a superficial image. Power, eternal power that surpasses everyone. This is what existences like you and me should pursue." Appearance, image, charm, personality, these are all things that only incompetent and weak existences care about. Mephisto said in disappointment. He couldn't tolerate Rog, who had such great potential, wasting his energy on such boring things. I can only say that everyone has different pursuits. After all, I'm a human and you're a demon, so everyone has different ideas. There's a saying that I'm not sure if you've heard of, but it's called, 3 values run with one's facial features. To become a charming villain, facial features are more important than 3 values. Odin's youngest son Loki is quite good at this. You can learn from him. After hearing Rog's words, Mephisto fell silent. He was not convinced by Rog, but he finally confirmed that Rog had no intention of becoming his subordinate, not at all. Whether it was his image or his worldview, it was all just an excuse for Rog not to become his subordinate. Forget it. Someone who can cultivate to your level of strength must have a firm belief. Otherwise you wouldn't have the power you have now. Use your strength to prove your beliefs. Whether it's rejecting me or leaving hell alive, you can't do without strength. As soon as he finished speaking, Mephisto exuded an astonishing aura, as if the entire world was under his control. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. As long as you can destroy or take away my staff, I'll let you leave and pretend that nothing happened. If you can't even do that, don't blame me for bullying you, a little ninja from Earth, Mephisto said confidently. Mephisto said with incomparable confidence. His insufferably arrogant image returned once more. Haha, is that necessary? You're already a high and mighty lord of hell, and you're still using such obvious words to destroy my state of mind. I'd be an idiot if I really believed what you said. Mephisto's was indeed very strong. He was the strongest enemy Rog had encountered so far, and the difference in strength between them was indeed so great that it made one despair. But even so, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be able to fight back when facing Mephisto's. If Mephisto's could really get rid of him easily, Mephisto's wouldn't have needed to say so much to him just now. You're indeed very strong, but if I want to leave, even if you're a lord of hell, you won't be able to stop me. I said it. As he spoke, Rog raised the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword in his hand and pointed it at Mephisto's fearlessly. If he was afraid, he would lose for the rest of his life. Rog could admit that his skills were inferior, and he could also admit that he had failed, but he would never allow himself to lose for the rest of his life. If he agreed to Mephisto's conditions today, or placed his hopes of victory on destroying and taking away the staff, he would never be able to win against Mephisto's. Not only would he not win today, but he wouldn't win in the future either. I like you more and more. If you weren't a human but a demon born in hell, you would definitely become a great existence famous throughout the multiverse. But now you don't have that chance. The more Mephisto's looked at Rog, the more he liked him. At the same time, it also triggered a desire to conquer that he hadn't felt for many years. He wanted to conquer this man and make him his most loyal subordinate. What else could give him a greater sense of accomplishment than this? Unlike before, Mephisto's didn't wait passively for Rog to attack this time. Instead, he chose to make the first move. Mephisto's raised his left hand slightly, and 3 pure and powerful energy tornadoes flew towards Rog. It was a killing move right from the start. These 3 energy tornadoes were almost transparent, and ordinary senses couldn't detect their existence at all. Moreover, unlike natural tornadoes, these 3 energy tornadoes didn't cause any abnormalities while flying. They didn't even cause a slight breeze. Mephisto's used facts to prove what a lord of hell should be capable of. It was an almost godly level of control over his body. Good timing. These 3 energy tornadoes that couldn't be detected by the naked eye attacked Rog from 3 different directions, completely sealing off all his escape routes. However, Rog didn't have any intention of dodging at this moment. He clasped his hands together and took a deep breath. Chakra in his body began to fuse with the natural energy of hell. Immortal mode. Rog had already planned to use immortal mode when he summoned the wood clone earlier. Although the wood clone had been accidentally destroyed, it had given him enough feedback. Although the natural energy of hell was very extreme, it could still be used to fuse with chakra. Chapter 324. Only a madman could fight another madman. The natural energy in hell was very extreme. Even if it could be used to fuse with the immortal technique chakra, there was a risk of it going out of control. However, Rog didn't think too much about it at the moment. After absorbing enough natural energy from hell, he suddenly realized that he seemed to have fallen in love with this kind of torture that brought pain all over his body. Simple red eyeshadow appeared around the Manjikyu Sharingan. The red circle on his forehead like a bull's eye was entwined with flame-like patterns. The moment he entered Hell's immortal mode, Rog's physical fitness changed qualitatively, and the power of his ninjutsu, illusion, and taijutsu increased tremendously. What surprised Rog even more was that after entering Hell's immortal mode, Hell's rejection and suppression of him completely disappeared. Hell had acknowledged his existence. Now, even if he didn't use unlimited mode, he could survive in Hell without any restrictions. Mephisto immediately noticed Rog's change and frowned slightly. Just as Mephisto was wondering how Rog could suddenly be acknowledged by Hell, Rog made his move. Immortal technique, would release, would clone. With a thought, 3 wood clones that looked exactly like Rog rushed out from the ground and attacked the energy tornado. Immortal technique, Chidori. Immortal technique, Chidori blade. Immortal technique, Chidori sharp spear. The 3 wood clones used 3 different immortal techniques, lightning release, and collided head-on with the energy tornado. Rumble. Although the attack power of the energy tornado was very strong, the attack power of the immortal technique wasn't weak either. The moment the lightning release ninjutsu collided with the energy tornado, the immortal ninjutsu dissipated, and the energy tornado collapsed. The out-of-control immortal technique chakra and Hell's energy scattered in all directions, creating huge craters in the ground. Gravel and dust flew everywhere. Immortal technique, lightning body blink. As soon as the wood clones dispersed the energy tornado, Rog used lightning body blink to appear in front of Mephisto. Immortal technique, Odama Rasengan. Under the enhancement of the immortal technique chakra, the diameter of the Odama Rasengan reached an astonishing 5 meters, making Mephisto's already thin body seem even smaller. Rog had already tried to use a blink attack before. Although the result of the previous attack wasn't very good, he still chose to use the blink attack that he was best at. Facing Rog's attack, Mephisto sneered disdainfully. Although the Odama Rasengan in Rog's hand was much larger than the previous Rasengan, it didn't mean anything to Mephisto. Whether it was an ordinary Rasengan or the immortal art Super Jade Rasengan, it was impossible for them to cause any harm to him. This was the confidence of an archdevil. Sure enough, when the immortal technique Odama Rasengan was about to touch Mephisto, an extremely powerful shockwave erupted from Mephisto's body. Boom! Mephisto's energy attack directly destroyed Rog's Odama Rasengan, and a hurricane-like shockwave was born, attacking in all directions. Is this all you've got? It had to be said that Mephisto was quite disappointed with Rog's attack this time. In a one-on-one battle, using the same tactic twice in a row wasn't a wise choice. And this also meant that the attacker had run out of tricks. Immortal art, Flying Thor. As soon as Mephisto's energy attack destroyed the immortal technique Odama Rasengan, Rog left his original spot with the Flying Thunder God and instantly returned to the vicinity of one of the wood clones. Leaving the Flying Thor technique on the clones was already Rog's traditional skill. Whether it was the Shadow clone or the wood clone, they were no exception. When Rog returned to the wood clone's vicinity, Mephisto suddenly realized that there was something wrong with the number of wood clones. One of them was missing. Rog used 3 wood clones to neutralize the 3 energy tornadoes, and then his original body attacked Mephisto. From the beginning, Rog didn't expect his blink attack to be effective against Mephisto. Moreover, Mephisto had just experienced it once not long ago. So from the beginning, his goal wasn't to attack Mephisto, but to use the same tactic and similar moves to distract Mephisto. Don't underestimate ninjas from Earth. Mephisto didn't have time to sense the whereabouts of the other wood clone before a Rasengan wrapped in silver-white lightning came to his back and hit him hard. Rumble. Immortal art, Spiral Railgun. Terrifying silver-white lightning danced everywhere, and a light blue energy storm soared into the sky. The earth shook and a blazing light occupied the entire sky. Who said that the original body couldn't feint attacks? Clones could also be the main force of the attack. Although the energy storm had blown away the Flying Thor Kunai, it hadn't blown the Flying Thor Kunai too far away. It was only a few dozen meters away from where Mephisto was now. Although the Flying Thor Kunai was buried under the soil, the Flying Thor technique on it was still there. After confirming the location of the Flying Thor Kunai, Rog formulated an attack strategy. In order to distract Mephisto, he could only feint attacks with the original body. The reason why he used the Odama Rasengan instead of the Rasengan wasn't because it was more powerful, but because the Odama Rasengan was bigger and easier to block vision. Moreover, the chakra turbulence after the Odama Rasengan was destroyed could further conceal the aura of the wood clone's immortal art. After the Odama Rasengan was destroyed, the uncontrollable chakra spread around Mephisto, making it impossible for him to immediately detect the immortal art spiral railgun behind him. As long as Mephisto didn't discover the whereabouts of the wood clone before the Otama Rasengan was destroyed, Rog's attack this time was destined to not fail. The result was just as Rog expected. Although Mephisto noticed that the wood clone was missing, it was too late by then. Although the immortal art spiral railgun was very powerful, it was still unrealistic to want to kill the Lord of Hell Mephisto in one shot. Moreover, after the simple exchanges earlier, Rog could basically confirm that Mephisto was extremely adept at energy control. Mephisto, who could easily suppress a large-scale energy storm that had gone out of control, definitely wouldn't be seriously injured by the immortal art spiral railgun. After the explosion of the immortal art spiral railgun dissipated, Mephisto's figure reappeared in Rog's line of sight. At this moment, the classical suit on Mephisto's upper body had completely disappeared. In its place was dark purple skin and extremely mysterious, strange patterns. Although Mephisto still maintained the appearance of a white-haired old man, his upper body had unknowingly revealed part of his demon true form. "You're the first person who can make me look so pathetic in hell. I'll give you one last chance. Submit to me or die here." As soon as he finished speaking, Mephisto's clothes returned to their original straight state, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 325. At this moment, Mephisto still looked calm and collected, just like when he first appeared. However, Rog knew that Mephisto's was angry, and it was the kind that couldn't be appeased. However, this was normal. If he had been teased by someone who was far weaker than him, he would also be very angry and want to kill that arrogant bastard immediately. "I'll answer you for the last time. Don't even think about it if you want me to submit to you." Although he was not as strong as Mephisto's, Rog had no intention of kneeling down and admitting defeat. If he wanted to kneel down and admit defeat, he might as well kill him directly. At least this was simpler. After hearing Rog's answer, Mephisto's expression did not change at all, and the shocking aura he emitted disappeared. Before Mephisto's could make a move, Rog attacked first. Compared to defending and counterattacking, he preferred to take the initiative in the battle. Moreover, the enemy he was facing now was stronger than him. Defending and counterattacking would only put him further at a disadvantage. Immortal spell, would release, Descent of the Tree Realm. After entering Hell's immortal mode, Hell recognized his existence and no longer suppressed him all the time. However, Hell was Mephisto's territory after all. If he wanted to fight Mephisto's in Hell, he had to create a home ground that was suitable for him to display his strength. A lush forest immediately appeared on the barren land, adding a touch of green to the somewhat monotonous land. The moment the dense forest appeared, the trees and vines in the forest came to life instantly, fighting to attack the motionless Mephistos. Although the forest formed by Descent of the Tree Realm was not a natural forest, it was more useful than a natural forest. As long as Rog needed it, all the plants in the forest could be used by him. Whether it was controlling the plants to attack or defend, or using them to restrain the enemy, it was as easy as breathing. Of course, the premise of all this was that he had enough chakra. In the face of the overwhelming trees and vines, the Lord of Hell, Mephistos, was still unmoved, as if he did not notice anything. However, when these branches and vines came within 5 meters of him, these branches and vines driven by the immortal technique chakra disintegrated instantly. This wasn't some fancy technique to control energy, but pure energy decomposition. In just an instant, these branches and vines were broken down into their most primitive atomic form and completely dissipated into the air. With Mephisto as the origin, an absolute domain with a diameter of 5 meters appeared. It wasn't that Mephistos couldn't expand the range of his domain, but in his opinion, an absolute domain with a diameter of 5 meters was enough to deal with all of Rog's attacks. Although Rog's strength was a little stronger than he had imagined, it was only a little. As long as he was in Hell, no one would be his match. Mephisto's actions might seem arrogant, but as an archdevil, he had enough confidence to be arrogant. Although the wildly growing branches and vines couldn't break through Mephisto's absolute domain, Rog still didn't stop attacking Mephisto. Mephisto was an archdevil of Hell, and there was no doubt that he was powerful. However, there was one thing he couldn't change. The more powerful an ability was, the more energy it needed to consume. Energy couldn't be produced out of thin air. Even if Mephisto was a Heavenly Father-level archdevil of Hell, he had to abide by this law. Otherwise, he wouldn't just be a Heavenly Father-level existence. While controlling the branches and vines to attack Mephisto, Rog's wood clone didn't stay idle either. He dug out the northern cold blade, flying Thor Kanai ghost motorcycle, and the rest that were buried underground. Of course, there was also Ghost Rider Johnny, who was buried underground and trying his best to recover his body. Rog had never thought of defeating Mephisto in hell. Although this achievement was very tempting, it also depended on whether he had the strength to do so. Since he couldn't defeat Mephisto, he had to be prepared to leave hell in advance. Mephisto sensed Rog's little movements, but he didn't stop Rog. Instead, he let Rog dig Johnny out. After digging Johnny out, Rog returned Johnny's ghost motorcycle to him and gave him some instructions. After listening to Rog's arrangements, Johnny was silent for a few seconds. Then he got on his ghost motorcycle and drove off into the distance without looking back. Just as Rog said, with Johnny's current strength, he couldn't do anything even if he stayed. Instead of staying here and being helpless, he might as well become Rog's backup plan for leaving hell. After Johnny drove the ghost motorcycle far away, Rog finally stopped controlling the branches and vines. There was no way to break through Mephisto's absolute domain with just these plants produced by the immortal spell chakra. Rog knew this very well, and so did Mephisto. However, this didn't mean that Rog would give up the idea of using wood release to attack. Rog clasped his hands together, and the immortal spell chakra in his body surged out wildly. A wooden arhat that looked like an ancient titan crawled out from the ground. Immortal spell, wood release, wood golem technique. In Warnerheim, Rog had also used the immortal spell wood golem technique once. But that time his opponent was the god of storms Njord, whose strength hadn't reached the Heavenly Father level. At that time, because of the amount of chakra he used, the wooden arhat he created was only about 40 meters tall. This time, with his full strength, the wooden arhat's height exceeded 100 meters for the first time, reaching an astonishing 120 meters. Wearing a white haori, he stood on top of the wooden arhat's head and looked down at Mephisto in the forest. Compared to the wooden arhat's huge head, Rog seemed a little small. However, the aura he exuded was even more shocking than the 120-meter-tall wooden arhats. Is this your killing move? Interesting. In the forest, Mephisto looked up at Rog and revealed a mysterious smile. Mephisto could clearly sense the unbelievably majestic immortal spell chakra in the wooden arhat's body. He also knew very well that controlling such a tall creation required a huge amount of energy. Although the wooden golem Rog created was very shocking, if he guessed correctly, Rog wouldn't be able to maintain this state for long. After looking up at Rog for a few seconds, Mephisto raised his staff slightly, and the natural energy in hell surged towards him. Under Mephisto's control, the forest Rog created was quickly disintegrated, and in its place was a rising demon puppet that was 100 meters tall. With curved horns, bat-like wings, and a triangular tail, Mephisto created a demon puppet that looked exactly like the demons in the legends. Chapter 326. Immortal Spell Wood Golem vs. Demon Golem. Mephisto didn't make the demon golem too big. Instead, he kept it the same size as Wood Arhat. I'll use your attack style to defeat you head-on. Rog didn't know if Mephisto was thinking the same thing, but when he saw Mephisto standing on top of the demon golem's head, he took the initiative to attack. Wood Arhat, who looked like an ancient titan, swung his right fist and punched the demon golem's head directly. As soon as Wood Arhat swung his right fist, the demon golem also swung his right fist. Boom. Two incomparably huge fists fiercely collided together, forming an extremely strong shock wave. Although Mephisto wasn't good at close combat, his golem control skills weren't weak at all. Even though he punched later, he still accurately judged the trajectory of Wood Arhat's attack. You want to meet force with force? Then I'll fulfill your wish. After Wood Arhat's right fist was blocked, Rog didn't hesitate and controlled Wood Arhat again. Rog had a wealth of experience controlling Wood Arhat to fight. He even summed up a set of fist techniques that belonged to Wood Arhat. Praise the Namo Gatling Bodhisattva fist technique. 3,600 revolutions in a breath. Euler, 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 Euler. Under Rog's control, the astonishingly large Wood Arhat transformed into a crazy punching machine. The huge fists hit the body of the devil puppet made of mud and stone like missiles. At this moment, all the fighting techniques disappeared from Rog's mind. The only thing he knew now was to use Wood Arhat's fists to beat the demon golem continuously. Wood Arhat's sudden outburst made Mephisto frown unconsciously. The energy in his body surged wildly. While repairing the demon golem's body, he also began to counterattack fiercely. The 100-meter-tall Wood Arhat and the demon golem were like boxers in the ring, attacking the enemy in front of them crazily. Broken wood and stone flew everywhere and fell to the ground like meteors. The shockwave produced by the collision of the fists exploded with a loud sound like a sonic boom. The fight between Wood Arhat and the demon golem created artificial earthquakes. The ground shook violently and spiderweb-like cracks could be seen everywhere. On the surface, this was a fight between Wood Arhat and the demon golem. But in reality, this was Rog and Mephisto's energy confrontation. Whether it was controlling Wood Arhat to fight the demon golem or repairing their injured bodies, it required a huge amount of energy. As long as one side's energy was depleted, this earth-shattering fight would come to an end. As a Heavenly Father-level Lord of Hell, Mephistos had an absolute advantage in terms of energy reserves. Whether it was the energy stored in his body or the natural energy that he could mobilize, he was far superior to Rog. So even if the demon golem was weaker, he wasn't worried at all. Covering Wood Arhat's body with Susanoo was a new experience that no one had ever experienced before, an inhuman experience of extreme pain. After using this shrunken version of Susanoo Great Buddha, even Rog, who had a strong will, couldn't help but kneel on one knee on top of Wood Arhat's head. After going back, he must practice Susanoo well. Although he was trembling with pain, Rog still had some messy thoughts in his mind. Although the cost of using it was a bit high, the effect was obvious. After putting on the light blue Susanoo armor, Arhat, whose momentum was already very amazing, showed a shocking power that was not weaker than Mephisto's. Susanoo Great Buddha. This was Rog's real trump card. When Arhat transferred the Susanoo armor, Mephisto's face finally became dignified, and he looked at Rog very seriously. Chapter 327. Although the battle didn't last long, Mephisto realized that Rog was more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Or rather, he was more pleasantly surprised. Every time he thought that Rog was going to stop here, Rog would always come up with some new tricks and play one amazing trump card after another. If not for Rog's repeated rejections and provocations, Mephisto would have really looked forward to signing a contract with Rog and making him his strongest evil spirit subordinate. However, it turned out that Rog had no intention of signing a contract with him. Looking at Arhat, who was covered in light blue armor, Mephisto sighed as killing intent surged in his heart. Kill Rog, force his soul to stay in hell, and then transform his soul into an evil spirit. Since Rog was unwilling to accept his good intentions, Mephisto could only use some forceful means. Killing intent flashed across Mephisto's body, but Rog's sharp senses picked it up. He wasn't surprised by Mephisto's decision. If he were Mephisto, he would have made a similar decision. Although he said that he had no intention of giving up. He had already used his trump card, the Susanoo Buddha, so there was no need to consider anything else. With a thought, Arhat, who was wearing the Susanoo armor, attacked again. Boom, 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 boom. With the Susanoo armor, the wooden Arhat's attack power and defense power have been significantly improved. Although Arhat's body didn't change at all, his punches now were stronger than the previous dozen punches combined. Left hook, right hook, straight punch, forward punch, 1-2 combo. At this time, the wooden Arhat was like an invincible boxing champion in a boxing ring. Punch after punch landed on the demonic puppet's body, forcing it to retreat step by step. Although Mephistos controlled the demon puppet to counterattack, the Susanoo armor on Arhat's body was like an absolute defense, blocking all of the demon puppet's counterattacks. In just a few seconds, huge spiderweb cracks appeared on the demonic golem's body. Broken soil and stones splashed out like a meteor shower, fiercely hitting the ground and creating craters of various sizes. Under the powerful attack that Arhat was unable to resist, the demon golem couldn't even make a slightly effective counterattack, and could only stagger backwards. The speed at which Arhat was destroying the demon puppets far exceeded the speed at which Mephisto could repair them. The 100-meter-tall demon golem was like an incomparably huge sandbag, receiving Arhat's punches that were each heavier than the last. From the looks of it, Rog now had the upper hand. But he knew very well that this upper hand was only the result of Mephisto giving up. Mephisto's best energy attack hadn't been used at all. Rog didn't know what Mephisto was planning. Perhaps he was using the demon puppet to exhaust his chakra, or perhaps he wanted to see how far Arhat could go. In any case, Mephisto was still standing calmly on top of the demon puppet's head, without the slightest hint of panic. Although Rog really wanted to control Arhat to kill Mephisto with one punch, he knew that this could only be a fantasy. Instead of wasting precious time on Mephisto, he might as well seize the time to deal with the demon puppet. Break from me. Taking advantage of the demon puppet's retreat, Arhat grabbed the demon puppet's arms, and with a sudden force, tore off the upper arms of the demon puppet. The two arms, which were dozens of meters long, were casually thrown by Arhat, and hit the ground like meteorites, raising a huge cloud of dust. After tearing off the demon puppet's arms, Arhat didn't stop at all, and grabbed the pair of bat wings on the back of the demon puppet with both hands again. Until now, Rog still didn't know why Mephisto wanted to make bat wings for the demon puppet. A demon puppet made of mud and stone obviously couldn't fly, so this pair of huge bat wings didn't have any practical use other than making the demon puppet look more like a legendary demon. Given Mephisto's experience, he shouldn't have wasted his energy to make a pair of useless bat wings. Although he couldn't understand what Mephisto was thinking, Arhat still grabbed the demon puppet's bat wings with both hands, and tore off the wings that were more than 200 meters long. At this moment, Mephisto's demon puppet was only left with its main body and head. When Rog controlled Arhat to throw away the huge bat wings in his hands, he suddenly realized that Mephisto, who was standing on top of the demon puppet's head, had a meaningful smile on his face. Not good. Years of battle experience made Rog acutely sense that something was wrong, and he planned to control Arhat to retreat some distance. However, it was all too late. When the pair of demonic bat wings were thrown to the ground, an irregular pentagonal barrier suddenly formed. The demon puppet's arms, bat wings, and torso formed the 5 fulcrums of the pentagon, and crimson energy soared into the sky. Although this pentagonal barrier wasn't very neat, it still firmly surrounded Log and the wooden Arhat. Was this Mephisto's plan? Sizing up this crimson pentagon, Rog sighed helplessly. Those who could make a name for themselves in the multiverse were indeed not easy to deal with. Mephisto seemed to be helpless against Arhat, who was wearing the Susanoo armor, but in fact, everything was going according to his plan. After trapping Rog with the pentagon, Mephisto didn't say anything, and only silently raised his right hand. The next second, the sky changed color, and the entire world turned from day to night. At the same time, the natural energy in the air boiled like boiling water, and the aura of destruction and death enveloped the entire world. At this moment, Rog, who was standing on top of Arhat's head, suddenly felt like he was against the entire world. The will of hell, which had acknowledged his existence, instantly disappeared without a trace. It was as if it had never existed in the first place. The sudden phenomenon of heaven and earth also attracted the attention of the demons in every corner of hell. Johnny, who was driving the ghost motorcycle at a crazy speed, also couldn't help but stop at this moment, and turn back to look at the battlefield where Rog and Mephisto were. Could he really make it here in time? Looking at this phenomenon that almost covered the entire hell, Johnny couldn't help but worry for Rog. Don't worry, he's Rog. You just have to carry out his plan properly. Blackie's voice sounded beside Johnny. When Johnny left, Rog handed Blackie, who couldn't be put into the medium scroll, to Johnny and let him leave with Blackie. I hope so. As soon as he said that, Johnny started the ghost motorcycle again, and sped off into the distance like a flaming meteor. Chapter 328. Rog tried to use the Susanoo Buddha to quickly end the battle, and Mephisto happened to have the same idea. However, unlike Rog, Mephisto's preparations were more covert. First, he trapped Rog with a pentagonal barrier, and then used an energy storm to directly destroy Rog's existence. As long as Rog died, Mephisto would be able to control his soul at will. When the time came, not to mention transforming Rog into an evil spirit, it wouldn't be a problem to completely turn Rog into a demon. Apart from Johnny, it had been a long time since Mephisto had seen a soul like Rog's that could move him. No, this was an existence even more precious than Johnny's soul. Johnny the Ghost Rider was just one of his test subjects. He couldn't compare to Rog at all. A strong desire erupted in Mephisto's eyes, which made Rog, who was standing on Arhat's head, involuntarily feel a chill. It wasn't a good experience to be sized up by a male creature like this. The natural energy in the air was still boiling wildly. Before long, this natural energy would transform into a terrifying energy storm that would completely destroy Rog and Arhat. Although he had fallen into Mephisto's meticulously prepared trap, Rog still had no intention of giving up. It wasn't the first time he had been trapped by a barrier. Although he didn't know magic, he had his own way of cracking barriers. No matter what the principle of a barrier was or how effective it was, at the end of the day, a barrier was just a barrier. And barriers could be broken with brute force. When Mephisto prepared the energy storm to kill Rog in one fell swoop, Rog took a deep breath and unleashed all the chakra in his body. At this point, there was no need to continue maintaining chakra. And even if he used up all his chakra, he still had the nine-tailed chakra. Although that would cause him to directly exit Hell's immortal mode, he couldn't care less at this moment. Mephisto immediately noticed Rog's actions, but he didn't take Rog's actions to heart. In his opinion, this was just Rog's desperate struggle. No matter what Rog did, he wouldn't be able to change his fate of dying in the barrier. This pentagonal blood-colored barrier was the tomb that Lord of Hell Mephisto had specially created for him. Under Rog's full power, the chakra in his body roared out like a flood. A massive amount of chakra gushing out of his meridians, leaving visible bloody marks on his body. As soon as the bloody scars that covered his entire body, the immortal's body recovered. Destruction and rebirth had reached a different balance's body to achieve a balance. And Rog didn't care about the pain coming from his body. At this time he was already tortured to death by the pain of using Susanoo in Hell's immortal mode. Adding some additional pain to the already bone-deep pain naturally wasn't a big deal. The wooden Arhat's right hand was raised high, and an immortal art super jade Rasengan that was even bigger than the wooden Arhat's body appeared in his hand. The 7th Hokage Naruto used countless facts to prove one thing, that is, there is no enemy that can't be defeated by a Rasengan. If there is, then another Rasengan. If you can't defeat the enemy with a Rasengan, then it can only mean that the Rasengan you made wasn't big enough or strong enough. What Rog wanted to do now was to use facts to prove the 7th Hokage's point of view once again, and add a new record to the Rasengan's Rasengan tactics. Under Rog's full power, a huge Rasengan with a diameter of 300 meters was born. This super huge immortal art super jade Rasengan spun wildly, and the flow of chakra even set off an equally huge super tornado. When this immortal art super jade Rasengan was formed, Rog still didn't stop and covered it with the power of hellfire. In addition, he also mobilized a part of the Kyuubi chakra and forcibly integrated it into this immortal art super jade Rasengan. The original blue and white immortal art super jade Rasengan also turned red and blue after the fusion of hellfire and Kyuubi chakra. Outside the crazily spinning chakra, there was also a crazily spinning orange-red hellfire. Mokutan, Sage Mode, Susanoo Super Jade Rasengan Hellfire, Kyuubi chakra. If these things combined couldn't break Mephisto's pentagonal blood-red barrier, then Rog didn't need to think about anything else, and could just accept his fate and wait for death. Wooden Arhat originally didn't have the ability to use ninjutsu, but the possession of Susanoo gave him the possibility of using ninjutsu. This unprecedented immortal art super jade Rasengan that fused many kinds of power was, to a certain extent, the limit of what Rog could currently use. This red and blue immortal spell super jade Rasengan entwined with hellfire was the pinnacle of his strength. Whether this Rasengan could break Mephisto's pentagonal blood-red barrier, or what kind of damage it could do to Mephisto, this was Rog's last attack. After this move, victory or defeat, life or death, would be the final answer. Mephisto thought that he had forced Rog into a desperate situation, but Rog proved him wrong again. Looking at the red and blue ball in the wooden Arhat's hand, which contained immense power, Mephisto suddenly laughed. This kind of aura, this kind of willpower, this was an opponent worthy of him taking seriously. Only this kind of existence can become the sharpest weapon in my hands, and bring the glory of hell to the multiverse. Rog, I want you. Mephisto suddenly shouted, not caring about his image as a superior lord of hell. You can't. After hearing Mephisto's shout, Rog replied calmly. Then, the 100-meter-tall wooden Arhat suddenly exerted strength in his legs, and his entire body leaped high into the air, directly pouncing on Mephisto. The pentagonal blood-red barrier had 5 fulcrums, and these 5 fulcrums were the key to the barrier. Rog wouldn't choose any of the other fulcrums to break the barrier. He would only attack the fulcrum where Mephisto was. When wooden Arhat, who was holding the immortal art super jade Rasengan, leaped high into the air, Mephisto also raised the black staff in his hand. The silver-white skull staff pointed directly at Rog, who was above wooden Arhat's head. The boiling natural energy between heaven and earth instantly formed a deep black hole with the skull staff as the origin, and a powerful energy storm that could destroy everything instantly formed. The fist-sized black ball was the core of the energy storm, and contained all the energy storm's power. Break for me. The immortal art super jade Rasengan, which was 300 meters in diameter, collided fiercely with the black ball in the energy storm. A white light brighter than a supernova explosion instantly appeared, cutting through the endless night like the dawn of dawn. Chapter 329. Two energy balls of completely different sizes crashed into each other. Different types of energy intertwined and separated, creating a strange scene that resembled an abstract oil painting. The red and blue immortal spell Odama Rasengan and the black hole-like energy storm core could not suppress each other. The scattered energy torrents destroyed everything around them. Lightning raged, flames danced, hurricanes roared, gravity turbulence. All sorts of natural phenomena, both common and uncommon, played out one after another. It was like an apocalyptic disaster but also like the birth of a new world. When the immortal spell Odama Rasengan collided with the black hole-like energy core, what happened next was no longer something Rog and Mephisto could control. At this point, even if they wanted to stop, it was already too late. They were the ones who had created this scene, but they could not decide the final outcome. Unless one side ran out of energy or the balance between the two was broken, this phenomenon could only come to an end. Time flew by, but now it felt like an eternity. The short span of 2 to 3 seconds felt like a century or two to him. Under Rog and Mephisto's anticipation, the balance between the immortal spell Odama Rasengan and the energy storm core was finally broken. An indescribably terrifying explosion erupted. Unlike normal energy explosions, this one was strangely quiet, as if someone had pressed the mute button. It was so quiet that it made one not know what to do. On this devastated land, a ball of light that resembled the sun slowly rose. The blazing white light became the only color in the entire world. Boom! When this orange-red ball of light spread to the horizon like the sun, the long-awaited explosion sounded. It was as if a crack had been torn in the sky. The vast land welcomed an unprecedented earthquake, and the natural energy in the air was swept away. The moment the immortal spell Odama Rasengan and the energy storm core exploded, Rog connected to the flying Thor on the ghost motorcycle. He broke through the restrictions of space and appeared behind Johnny in an instant. Run full speed ahead. Although Rog didn't suffer any serious injuries, the exhaustion from the depletion of chakra made him look as weak as a seriously ill patient. If it wasn't for the nine-tailed chakra maintaining his consciousness, he might have already fainted. After hearing Rog's words, Johnny didn't dare hesitate at all and immediately accelerated the ghost motorcycle to its maximum speed. In order to leave Hell and return to the human world, Johnny had to drive the ghost motorcycle. Therefore, after digging Johnny out of the ground, Rog had already arranged a retreat plan. Johnny drove the ghost motorcycle away first, widening the distance between them and Mephisto as much as possible. After the outcome between him and Mephistopheles was decided, he would immediately appear behind Johnny in the Flying Thunder God and return to Earth on Johnny's ghost motorcycle. Rog's attempt to leave Hell on the ghost motorcycle couldn't be hidden from Mephisto, but he didn't plan on hiding it from Mephisto. What he needed was just a little bit of time. Mephisto, who was at the center of the explosion, sensed Rog's departure, but unlike what Rog had guessed, he didn't chase after them but let them leave Hell. "We'll meet again, we definitely will." Mephisto looked in the direction Rog and Johnny left with an inexplicable smile on his face. When Johnny drove the ghost motorcycle through the portal made of hellfire, Rog finally breathed a sigh of relief. This trip to Hell had finally come to an end without any mishap. Time passed in a flash. It was already the 7th day since Rog returned to the human world, which was the main universe's Earth. At this time he was wearing a dark red classical mage robe and lying on the roof of a building, basking in the sun. He wasn't at Konoha's headquarters in Washington, nor was he in his secret nest in New York. Instead he was in Kathmandu, Nepal. To be precise, he was in Kathmandu, Nepal at Kamartaj. As for why he was here and wearing Kamartaj's mage robe, it was a bit strange but it was quite reasonable. When he and Johnny returned to Earth through the Hellfire portal and returned to US Route 69 where they had left before, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One walked out of a glittering portal and then carried out a detailed examination of the two of them that they couldn't understand. After confirming that neither of them was possessed by a demon, nor did they bear the inexplicable curse of Hell, Ghost Rider Johnny was picked up and released by Ancient One, and Rog was caught by her to Kamartaj. In front of Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, Rog wouldn't have any power to resist, and he didn't have any thoughts of resisting Ancient One. After fighting with the Heavenly Father level Lord of Hell Mephisto, he knew very well how big the gap in strength was between him and the Heavenly Father level. So instead of asking for trouble, it was better to obediently listen to Ancient One's arrangements. And Ancient One didn't do anything strange to him, he just took him to Kamartaj and then gave him the identity of a student. After that, he stayed in Kamartaj until today. Except for 3 days ago, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One let him experience the existence of the multiverse. Ancient One disappeared again. As for where Ancient One went, he didn't know, and neither did the people of Kamartaj. Rog, teacher, Ancient One is back, she wants you to go over now. Just as Rog was about to fall asleep under the warm sun, Sorcerer Modu's voice came over, interrupting his unstarted nap. Sorcerer Modu, one of the disciples of Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. In fact, every sorcerer in Kamartaj can be regarded as a student of Ancient One, but there are only a few who can be personally taught by Ancient One. Sorcerer Modu is one of the few people who were personally taught by Ancient One. Okay, I'll go over now. Because it was in Kamartaj, Rog did not use the usual quantum transmission, but walked over step by step. As before, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One sat in the hall he usually used, tasting Nepalese tea with honey. Ancient One, are you looking for me? Rog asked as he bowed slightly to the sitting Ancient One. Have a seat, it's time to talk to you today. Ancient One, wearing a bright yellow robe, pointed to the chair opposite him with the folding fan in his hand and said in a kind tone. Thank you. After taking the teacup handed over by Ancient One, Rog thanked him. After waving everyone else in the hall to leave, Ancient One spoke again. You have also lived in Kamartaj for a while, can we talk about your past now, Rog from another world? Chapter 330. Ancient One opened his mouth and told Rog's biggest secret. If the person sitting in front of Rog now was not Ancient One, but someone else, Rog would definitely reply, I'm not, I didn't, you're talking nonsense. But since the person who said this sentence is Ancient One, there is no need for him to continue to hide it. You've already confirmed it, so I don't need to say it again, right? Like Ancient One, Rog at this time also has a calm look on his face, quite like a dead pig that is not afraid of boiling water. As the main pillar that guards the main universe Earth from the invasion of other multiverse creatures, Ancient One's attitude towards foreign creatures has always been quite tough. Despite Ancient One's amiable appearance, when dealing with visitors from another world, her approach is comparable to Hulk in an angry state. In the past few days, I did use the time stone to confirm your origin, and at the same time, I also checked your future. Speaking of this, Ancient One took a sip of the honey tea in his hand, and then continued, even the time stone can only be traced back to the day you appeared in New York. As for your previous experience, it is an eternal nothingness. Compared with your empty past, your future is much more exciting. Hearing this, Rog also raised a strong curiosity, curious about what kind of future Ancient One saw. Can I ask about the future you saw? I don't mind if you spoil my future in advance. Although the future is not static and every decision made now may affect the future outcome, Rog still wants to know what kind of future Ancient One saw. Of course, although your future has tens of millions of endings in the final analysis, it can basically be summed up into two categories. If it was any other time, Ancient One would never talk about the topic of the future with people, let alone tell them what he had seen. However, Rog, who is sitting in front of him now, is an exception, the only exception. As for whether this is related to Rog's identity as a traveler, only Ancient One himself knows. The first kind of ending is you die. After hearing Ancient One's answer, Rog was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Ancient One definitely doesn't mean that he died normally, after all, he can't have eternal life. Since it wasn't a natural death, the answer was obvious. With his personality and the suicidal thoughts he had from time to time, he must have died in some battle, at the hands of some person or existence. May I ask who killed me the most? Slayer Lord. Ancient One gave an answer that he had expected. However, he was curious about one thing. If he remembered correctly, Thanos, who didn't collect all the Infinity Stones, would only have the strength of Yation's father level. If Rog's judgment was correct, his current strength should also be at the level of an inferior Heavenly Father. He was slightly stronger than the Earth's God level, but weaker than the Heavenly Father level, so it was not an exaggeration to say that he was a lesser Heavenly Father level. He now has control of the reality gem, so when he faces Thanos in the future, he will not face Thanos who has collected all the Infinity Gems. A Thanos who hasn't collected all the Infinity Stones is actually the one who has killed him the most times, which is a bit interesting. What about the second kind of future? Rog didn't ask how he died in the hands of Thanos, because it didn't make any sense. A misjudgment in the battle may lead to his own death, and there will be a lot of future extensions, so there is no need to ask. You should have an answer to the second kind of future long ago. After all, this is your goal all along. You have become a god, you have become the god of ninjas who is famous in the multiverse. Starting from human beings, you have ascended the throne and become a true god. I don't know why ascending the throne, which sounds very awesome when said by Ancient One, is like congratulating you on your graduation. It seems so ordinary. I understand my future is either to become the god of ninjas, or to die on the way to becoming a god. Anyway, there won't be any ordinary ending. It's pretty good, at least the whole life looks quite wonderful. Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One didn't tell Rog's future in advance. It was better to let him understand the real choice in his heart. Your future, I spoiled it to you in advance, so shouldn't you introduce your past? Equivalent exchange. Although Ancient One is not an alchemist, there are some principles that are common to both mages and alchemists. I am indeed not from this world. The reason why I came here is actually an accident. According to the plan, the world I should go to is a ninja world. For some reason I don't know, I came here and became a ninja. You should know the next thing, so I won't say much. Rog briefly explained why he had transmigrated to this world. Although this explanation seems to say nothing, it is the truth. Thank you for your honesty, although I don't know what kind of world the ninja world you are going to is, but since you are here, this may be the real arrangement of fate for you. It's rare for you to come to Kamartaj, so learn a few spells by the way and go back. After all, you are still my student. Rog almost didn't keep up with Ancient One's thoughts. He thought that Ancient One would let him go after confirming his origin and his harmlessness. Then it would be impolite for me to refuse. Although he didn't know what Ancient One was thinking, since Ancient One didn't mind, he certainly wouldn't mind. He was still very interested in Kamartaj's magic. In the following days, Rog officially began to learn Kamartaj's magic as a student of Ancient One. Then, he finally figured out a question that he had wanted to know the answer to for a long time. Sharingan can't copy magic. Although Kamartaj's magic doesn't need to be recognized by some existence to learn it, before casting magic, it needs to collect energy from other spaces in the multiverse, and then cooperate with spells or gestures to cast it smoothly. Sharingan can copy the spells and gestures when casting magic, but the energy that drives magic, that is, magical power, Sharingan can't do anything. Ordinary magic can be cast as long as one has magical power. But there are some special magic that requires the approval of the corresponding existence to cast, such as some white magic in the system of the Wei Shan Emperor. The Sorcerer Supreme didn't teach Rog too many complicated magic. Basically, he gave him a few common magic of Kamartaj. Portal, Mirror Dimension, Ring of Lagador, Astral Projection. Although the number is not much, Rog is very satisfied. After all, his job is a ninja, not a sorcerer. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.